Who's
Hey,
that? That's Steph.
yeah,
Stigma.
and yeah, welcome to another episode of Steph's Box.
All right. What is that?
Fuck
What
yeah,
kind of
man!
what is that instrument?
It's a kalimba.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
it's
I think I have
like
something similar to that. I have like something with it looks like a harp on a board. Like I got it from my boss at the
ah,
center, the treatment center, and I was trying to pluck it and figure out how to use it. But
yeah, it's a thumb piano, so you just
yeah.
play it like
Oh, okay, cool.
yeah.
Can,
But
can you play Stairway to Heaven? No.
get the fuck out of here. We're
Yeah,
done.
right.
uh, no,
Right.
but yeah. So Eric, you're a musician, co-host of the Gen X Brothers podcast, and
Yeah.
also the biggest emitter of noxious fumes in all of North America.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So how's it going,
That's
dude? It's been like we've known each other for over
yeah.
10 years, and this is the second time we've had a actual conversation that wasn't on Facebook Messenger. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Over to what 2014, I think was when we connected on Facebook, possibly or 2012.
yeah, I think it was
Um, I
20
moved
2012
here
or
to
2013.
yeah, I
Yeah.
moved here to Portland in 2011, and
Yeah.
then I
Yeah,
picked
I
up.
hit you up. I hit you up. It was the first time the band broke up, and
Yeah.
actually, this is interesting. I don't know if you ever pay attention to synchronicities,
Uh,
but like I notice them all the fucking time. And right before the podcast, I was on Reddit, and somebody was like in the comment thread, somebody was talking about their pet tarantula, whose name is Willow Wisp.
oh yeah,
And I
cool.
was like, oh, that's a
Yeah.
perfect synchronicity right there.
And
Because
what's funny is I always see that name Willow Wisp now like being used on all the like everywhere. Like even there was a diaper factory called Willow Wisp, which was so bizarre when I typed it in. I think like why would they think of it? And was the guy a fan of the band? Because when
yeah,
Tony and I thought of that name, it came from we didn't even think of it as being Will o' the Wisp. We had no idea that even existed. Like there was a Paganini piece, Will o' the Wisp, right? We just looked in the dictionary, saw the word willow, we saw the word wisp. Tony was like, "Hey, we should put them together." I was like, "Yeah, it's a good idea. So let's do it."
yeah,
And it came Willow Wisp, realizing two separate words, and we
right.
just figured we were the only ones that used it in that context as far as the way it was spelled. But then now that the band's kind of defunct or whatever, now I'm seeing everything is like all these different. There's even a Willow Wisp in France and with the same
Oh wow.
spelling. Yeah, and
And you guys started that in 1987, right?
well, yeah, '84 is when we met in high school, and then we started out as Black Mass. We had
Ah.
no idea how to play our instruments. Like, well, Tony was a singer at the time, and then we had a guy named Lee on drums who had his own kit, and he was actually a pretty good drummer. But me and my bass player Jimmy, we had no idea what we were doing on our instruments. We just would tune it anyway and plug whatever. But then after we kicked the drummer out, Tony decided he wanted to play drums because he always wanted to play drums. He just couldn't get a drum kit or could never afford one. But he finally got one on Christmas of '85. No, it might have been
Ah,
late '84. And when he got on that kit, he was already able to play the full album of Shout at the Devil. So like he already knew
oh
how to
wow.
play drums. I think he did marching band like in high school or whatever. For a
Yeah,
little
that'll
bit
do
though.
it.
Yeah, so it probably helped him. He probably just
Well,
had a natural sense of rhythm
that's
too. And
that's interesting. I never knew he was in school band because he always said that he didn't know how to read music or how to count.
yeah, I think he was in it for like a little bit, but he didn't last in it. Like, like I had music
uh,
class in high school as well, but I was more like I was in the back of the class. And as I started to learn guitar a little bit more, I had this one guy who reminded me of Jakey Lee because Jakey Lee was my hero at the time because that's who made me
right.
want to play guitar. And so he
Oh,
was this
okay.
Japanese guy that he just started going to school with us. He was a virtuoso on guitar, looked like Jakey Lee a little bit, and he showed me how to play the pentatonic scale. And then he
Yeah.
showed me how to play in key, like he was playing Mr. Crowley,
Right.
the background chords, and he'd have me just to go over to D, where the D part is, and
Dun,
do the
dun, dun,
pentatonic. Yeah, and it started
dun, dun,
sounding good. I'm thinking, oh,
dun.
that's how it is. Okay, and he told me how you
Yeah.
count three back, count three forward to find the minor key or whatever. And then
Oh, nice.
so we're doing all of that while our teacher's trying to teach like these stupid like green sleeves and those little
You're
cheesy songs. We had a
right.
little lamb and stuff like that. So that really opened
Yeah.
my eyes. And after that, I was like, okay, this is it. This is what guitar is about. I learned how to tune my guitar by ear with the harmonics, and then
Yeah. Hell yeah.
yeah. But I
Yeah.
still don't know how to put my guitar strings on. It's still
Oh,
35
it's
something years later.
yeah, it's a pain like that Ibanez I got on my wall. Like it was my first locking tremolo guitar and still my only one. And yeah, I'd rather just pay the 50 to like because I've done it myself before, but it's just
Yeah.
such a pain in the ass. Like I just want to like there's been so many times I want to pick up my guitar and just like
Yeah.
smash it, and it's like, whoa, no, that's my baby, you know.
Yeah, I can put the strings on. It's just not a very pretty sight afterwards, and it was the same too. And I got that Jackson now. I got a Jackson with the Floyd Rose and tremolo or whatever.
Oh
It's
yeah,
and so I have to pretty much take that in to get this. I got to go take it in this week to get the new strings on it, because there's no way I'm going to attempt to change strings on that thing, you know.
yeah.
Right.
I got to get a new input for this one. It just crapped out after 10 years, and I just got it restrung. So I got it restrung, brought it home, and I'm like ready to rock out. And I plug it in. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, son of a bitch.
Do you have a lot of guitars?
Yeah, I've got shit. I think like 5. I don't know. I've got a bunch of crap guitars I don't really play that people. I don't know. Like people just give me instruments.
Yeah, that's how
I
I
mean,
used to be.
yeah. Well, the vast majority of my instruments have been donated, and I've got like 14, 15 instruments. You know.
Uh-huh. That's why I never cared about brands or buying the expensive guitars. I
Right.
always had the cheap ones, and people always gave me their guitar or lend me an amp, and I never gave it back or something, you know.
Yeah. I never understood tone chasers. You know, it's
Yeah, yeah.
like okay, you're a rich kid that gets all the fun
Uh-huh.
toys, so you can just
Yeah.
like go out and get whatever you want and say, oh, I don't like that Paul Reed Smith. I'm gonna
Yeah,
go
right.
get a Gibson, or you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, this Jackson is like the best guitar I bought myself in like forever, pretty much, because I bought a Jackson Dinky a long time ago, but off of some crackhead or whatever that was sold it to me for like $100. It was like worth. He said it was worth 900, but you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I bought this
Yeah.
Jackson, I'm thinking
By
like,
crackhead math.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I used the stimulus check, the COVID stimulus check to buy it. And I was like, I'm gonna buy myself a guitar with that money.
That's what it was there for, you know.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I could either pay bills or I could buy a guitar. I chose to buy a guitar and pay the bills. Like, don't give me an extension on the bill, because I'm going to take advantage of
you're
it.
you're what's wrong with liberal America.
Yes, everything,
uh,
and the GOP.
yeah, yeah. Honestly, like, I mean, I get a monthly retard check, so you know, it's like
Yeah, yeah,
that stimulus was just like $2,000. I don't think I've ever even seen
yeah,
$2,000. You
yeah.
know?
What is a retard check? Is it like Social Security or something like that?
Yeah, SSI.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but a bunch of like mental things and
I thought
autism
about
and
thought about
epilepsy.
thought about applying for that, or just to maybe retire, but then I looked it up, like, did the calculation. So I'm only going to be able to make like $700 a month off
Yeah,
of
no,
SS.
that's how it works. Well,
Yeah,
you can have up to 2,000
yeah,
per month, but if you make over that, then they'll like take your benefits away, and
yeah,
it's a pretty messed up system, honestly. Like
yeah, yeah.
you
It
know,
feels
because it's like the liberals, they're like, well, we need a safety net for people that
yeah,
can't take care of themselves, and then the Republicans are like, well, we'll pass that bill, but only after we put all these litmus tests on
yeah,
it, so that
yep,
like if you're on it, it forces you to be poor.
yeah,
Because God forbid you get some steak and lobster once a month with your food stamps.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
um,
They're so out of touch, so out of clue. It's like we have what's called the Oregon Health Plan here, and it's like, if you make under 16,000 a year, you can qualify for it. But if
yeah,
you make 16,100, you don't. But you can but you can get Obamacare. Well, Obamacare is like $300 a month. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
that's the cheapest. So, but if they expect people to live off of 16,000 a year just to get that OHP, when your rent's already like 1,500 a month, you're already spending
yep.
about 12,000 a year just on rent.
Oh yeah, oh
So they
yeah.
need to up that move the
Well,
goalposts, if you will.
sure. Well, the thing with Obamacare is it actually saved my life
Yeah,
because I never had insurance my entire adult life, and I had
yeah.
untreated gallstones for about 7 years, and
Okay.
it got so bad it was like my gallbladder was operating at like 11%. Like
Yeah,
and finally when Obamacare got passed, I didn't make enough money to qualify for it, but it expanded the entry for Medicaid,
oh
and
yeah,
so yeah, so like I was able to see a doctor instead of just going to the ER, and they're like, "Oh, we got to get this son of a bitch out now, or you're gonna die." And I'm like, "Whoa, I feel
yeah,
like I'm
right.
gonna die." And they're like, "All
Yeah, yeah.
right."
Yeah,
So
yeah, it saved my life too. Like, 5 years ago, I had to get a hernia surgery, and it was my first time ever getting surgery. But it was
yeah,
about like, even the doctor said, you need to get this done now, because if it busts and then it's over for you. So,
Yeah,
but luckily that
sepsis and all that shit.
I have Oregon Health Plan, so I was able to get that. So, even though I have Oregon Health Plan, because I don't really make I make good money, but I don't have a health insurance plan. But I just make just enough to where I can't afford the Obamacare, but I do have to. I don't want to say it on air. Maybe you could edit it
Yeah.
out, but I do have to fend on some numbers every now and then to
Yeah.
stay on that system.
Uh,
and,
um,
and if the IRS is watching, I'm just joking.
yeah, yeah. Well, they're underfunded, so
Exactly
but
right.
they're underfunded, and it's fucked up that they disproportionately audit poor people.
Yeah.
Like, and the reason being because poor people are an easy target because they can't afford a team of lawyers to,
Yeah.
run them around in circles. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I got to
if
start
you've
making
got,
payments because I'm so behind on my federal taxes. But I've been
oh,
getting the letters, but then I just, I've got a payment plan, but they never sent me a letter back saying they approved it, to where I
yeah,
could pay at least $100 a month, But,
I haven't paid taxes in years just because
yeah.
I've made under like 14,000 for
Yeah.
like a long time.
Yeah.
um,
So
even when I was,
I have to take my own taxes out because I have the subcontractor, the 1090, is it called a 1099 or something like that, where you have to
oh
take.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so I can't really afford to take my own taxes out every week. I need that money every week, So,
right, right. And that's you work as a drug rehabilitation
yeah,
counselor.
typically called a CAD C1, which is a certified alcohol. Uh, what is the? Oh yeah, alcohol and drug counselor. I suck
Right,
with
right.
acronyms,
Yeah.
even to this day. My boss
All
will.
right, kids. So this is the good shit. You
Yeah,
don't want to get, if the pill has brown specks in it, you don't
yeah,
want to take those. You
yeah,
want
yeah.
the pure Molly,
Uh-huh.
comes in a little, capsule. No.
Stay away from the red and the blue pill.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just take the
Oh, we
black
have.
one.
Yeah, the blue pill is what's been killing a lot of people around here, which is called the blue pill. It's fentanyl.
Oh shit.
So like what's it called when you make it when it's fake or whatever?
Synthetic, yeah.
Synthetic fentanyl, and
Ah,
yeah. And I'm really bad with all the like pharmacology, like the names of certain drugs and medications. I can't even say benzodine's right. I can't say none of
yeah.
this. Right. I don't know how I even got my certification.
Goddamn Latin.
Yeah, right. I'm like that
um,
though. Like I flaw in all these areas, but when it comes down to getting something done, I just get it done at the last minute and somehow pull it
oh,
out. I don't know
oh,
how.
me too. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, procrastination is like my best
yeah,
motivator,
yeah,
like, oh shit, the deadline,
yeah.
like,
I'll
oh
stop
my,
procrastinating tomorrow.
yeah. Yeah. All my college papers were done the night before, but I'd always get, high grades, just because, like, I don't know, some people work better under pressure, some people
Yeah,
fold, others focus, and you know,
that's true. That's very true.
um, but if you get stuff done in advance, it's less stressful if you
Yeah,
like that,
yeah. That's what I like about the
Um,
relief of it. But
yeah, yeah, yeah,
then it's back to the procrastinating.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We never
um,
learn.
yeah, if only it was possible to like intentionally procrastinate orgasms.
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah. Which these I kind of do because I'm getting older now. It's like it takes a
Right.
while. No. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, same like, and estrogen changes that a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
they say men are losing their testosterone. And I was like, I've been taking this one guy was saying, you need to take testosterone pills or whatever. And so I got some. I don't feel any different. Like I feel the
yeah.
same as I feel. I don't know.
Yeah, when I started hormone replacement, my
Yeah.
testosterone was already like less than half the
Yeah.
male average. Yeah, so
Is there any
um,
other side of do you go through any sicknesses or illnesses from it or anything? Yeah, just that's
no,
cool.
no. And then estrogen, like, it's awesome. Like a lot more um, control over my emotions.
Okay.
I mean, I feel them more intensely, but like they make more sense, and
Mm.
just add a lot more peace.
Yeah, yeah,
Because when I was a man, I was definitely had a violent streak, and
mm,
temper
yeah,
issues and things like that, and suicidal ideation, all kinds of shit, and
yeah.
this is, yeah, past couple of years.
You think a lot of that had to do with like maybe you knew inside, but you just couldn't really express yourself
Oh,
the way you really
A
needed to or
hundred,
wanted to?
100%. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I was diagnosed with a borderline personality,
yeah,
and part of it was like a fractured sense of self.
yeah.
And I just had a yearly mental health exam, and yeah, they said that part since transition, I finally have like I
Yeah.
used to always joke I didn't have one single Jiminy Cricket in there. It was like a whole committee of,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
and now it's just one voice, you know.
So the woman won. Woman
Yeah,
won.
yeah, that bitch had to get out.
Yeah. Girl power is what they
Yeah.
say.
Hail Satan.
Well, that's awesome. I'm happy for you. Like I say,
Uh,
you know,
thanks.
you look amazing. You've grown into a beautiful woman.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny, like uh, thinking about Tony, like you know, because I knew I was going to talk to you, so it's like having all these flashbacks, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember just how how
Straight
homophobic he was, just
Just,
like when I was openly bisexual, you know,
yeah.
like one time he was at my house and you know how he handles alcohol. It's just like
Yeah.
a tall
Yeah.
boy and he's smashed
Yeah.
and he's getting up in my face like faggot, faggot, and
Yeah.
he's like pointing his finger up in my face. I'm like, get your finger out of my
That's what's
face.
weird about
It's
Tony. Tony
me.
could be the nicest guy, and he is
Yeah,
compassionate. Like if he's sober, he'd be like, "No, I'm not homophobic. I love
yeah,
everybody equally." But
yeah.
that's why we always say never give Tony alcohol, because even back in the day when we were in high school and stuff, it's like he don't ever drink, but all of a sudden you give him one or two beers, he's ready to fight everybody. He fought me, he
Oh yeah.
fought his old band members. He
Well,
just turns into
I
a
I
crazy
broke his
maniac.
finger. I broke
Yeah,
his finger. Like he couldn't play drums for 2 months because he
yeah,
kept doing this, and I'm like, you better quit doing it. And like
yeah.
finally, just
We used to joke he's like the Gremlins. Don't feed him after midnight. Don't give him no fucking alcohol, man.
oh, that's great. Like I remember him telling me one time he was out drinking and he woke up the next day in the playground of a preschool, like
Yeah,
just sleeping in the playground, and somehow he had scaled like a 12-foot chain link fence while he was drunk and blackout drunk. Didn't even
yeah,
remember.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
uh, yeah, the MDMA had to drag him off the subway once, like just
Yeah,
like pull him,
yeah,
like he's just like,
yeah. Oh, better do that. Our
uh,
first time on the Sunset Strip, we got so plastered off that Cisco. The Cisco was a crazy drink. It's like I don't know
yeah,
if you ever drank Cisco, but that's an angry drunk. That's like you have
right.
like a half a bottle, you're already gone. And Tony's just all like spread out all over the strip, like on this one that one auto place next to the whiskey. I don't know if you've been by there. By the
Oh yeah, yeah, I
there's like
remember.
autos with a glad you can see the cars in a really nice looking prestige place, but he's like sprawled out there, shit in his pants. We had
Oh,
these girls that took us home and cleaned them up, and it's like we're still
wow.
friends to this day with those girls, and she still reminds me every now and then, like, yeah, remember that time I
Yeah.
had to clean up Tony's shit?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's
Like
great. And her mama's there and everything. So, but
yeah.
welcome to Hollywood.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Any thoughts you have of glitz and glamour? Just like check that shit at the
Yeah,
door. It's a.
yeah,
I mean, it
yeah.
was it was a cesspool when I left in 2017,
Yeah.
and from what I've heard now, like it's just a apocalyptic hellscape, you know,
What I hear, yeah, yeah.
and they're
Like,
like bulldozing the strip, like they bulldoze the Viper Room
oh
to
yeah,
make
yeah.
way for condominiums and
Oh,
shit. Like,
damn.
yeah, that was
All the cool places, huh?
yeah, that was a cool spot, you know, and
Yeah.
well, I guess now those rich old fucks are gonna have to deal with the ghost of River Phoenix, you
Oh yeah,
know.
yeah, right.
um,
And what's Johnny Depp? Isn't it? Doesn't he own that club? I think Johnny Depp. I thought he owned that.
he sold it a long time. He sold
Oh,
it
okay.
like almost 20 years ago, I think.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he did own it for a while.
Yeah. Because
Um,
we played there before. It was called the Viper Room. It used to be called something else, like start with a C, like the Continental or some kind of weird name like that. And
huh.
it was before the Viper Room. It turned into the Viper Room. It was like, but then I've been to the Viper Room many times. Pretty
Yeah.
nice little place.
Yeah, I played a show there with
Yeah.
Willow Wisp. Yeah, it was interesting because we were the only metal band on the bill,
Oh yeah.
and there's all these like yuppie looking people, you know, and like polo shirts and
Yeah.
khaki shorts and expensive watches, and
Yeah.
and we're looking at them, looking at each other like, oh shit, we're gonna walk this room, like this is and
Yeah.
and actually like these people, like all these like older, affluent looking people, like were coming up to us after the show like, you guys were so entertaining. I couldn't understand what the vocalist was singing,
Yeah.
but I understand that's just the style, but that was a
Yeah.
very good show.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Like
Thanks.
almost every Willows review was like that. It was like they don't know what's going on or what they're trying to go for, but it was interesting. It was good. It was just like
I I remember
never
this one.
fit in.
I remember this one review we got, because Tony like would do all these crazy fucking press kits,
Yeah.
and
Send
and I
stuff
kept,
out to like
yeah,
octopus in a bottle or jar. That's how we used to
yeah.
do.
Well, he was like putting like used band-aids and like
Yep.
snakes and
Yeah.
iguana skin and like a syringe and all that
Yeah.
shit in there. I'm like, dude, don't send people that crap. And he's like,
Yeah.
no, 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 it's cool. Like it's that's what we're that's our
It's
style.
original.
And yeah, and
That's
he
why we.
sends
That's
it.
why we never got signed to a big label because he would do that to all the big
Yeah,
labels.
yeah. Or tell Gene Simmons to fuck off and hang
Yeah.
up
Right.
on him,
Yeah.
and like,
Yeah, exactly.
but the review came back, like he sent the press kit to a reviewer, and the reviewer, it was short, it was sweet, it just said, don't send us your garbage.
Yeah.
Also, next time, send something listenable.
Cool. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
um, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, that I don't know why he insisted on self-sabotage so much, because like
I
we
think a
were
lot of
start
it. He's got this mentality of like it's gonna be original. It'll shock him and it'll cause him to. He's living in a day
oh,
where something like that would actually probably get you noticed and signed or something if
right,
you were shocking like throwing raw meat out into the crowd like Wasp or whatever.
yeah,
But they didn't get signed because of that. They got signed because of their music. They got signed
right.
because of the draw that they were bringing in. And I used to try to explain it to Tony, but he's got his ways of doing it.
Well, what happened, because I called you, the first time it broke up,
Yeah.
and then a couple years later, he managed to get me back into the fold and give it another shot with
Yeah.
some lineup changes,
Yeah. Love it.
and then we were like really picking up. We went to like Vegas and we went on tour. Or no, this was after the tour broke up. No,
Yeah.
but we were working on saving up for an album. We were like gigging every month, like 4 or 5 times a month, and just
Mm.
saving up so much money.
Yeah.
And then the day before we're going into the recording studio, he says, "Okay, can everybody bring like $50 with them for the studio?" And I'm like, "Dude, I just got laid off. Like,
Yeah.
what about the band account? That's what this is for." And he's like, "Well, I just think we should save that money for a rainy day." And I'm like, "I got laid off. This is rainy
Wasn't
day.
this?
Where's the
Yeah.
band money?" And he's like, "I spent it."
Oh damn.
And I was like, "What?" And I told the other band, I'm like, "You guys hear this? He fucking embezzled all the band money. There's no band money."
Yeah.
And we just quit on the spot.
Yeah.
And we ended
Yeah.
up like, the four of us started four different bands that all included each other. So like,
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's cool. Yeah,
um,
that's just lack of not having a manager. I think that's what always
yeah.
killed us is not having an actual manager. You got the band trying to manage themselves when they should be focused on the music and playing shows and
Yeah.
stuff. And whereas like
Well, if there had been transparency, it would have been
it's
a different
transparent.
story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
I'm not really innocent. I remember there was a time when they trusted me to send money to Rube Morgue, I think it was, to take out an ad. So they all gave me the band money. And this was when I was really struggling with meth and alcohol and stuff. So yeah,
uh,
and I blew all that. I even like kind of pissed off the Rue Morgue people or whatever because they had reserved the spot for us, and I think I kind of ruined it. But then but then Tony ruined our Amoeba Records. It's like thinking like, how come he does stuff and he doesn't get in trouble? I do stuff, I get bitched out, kicked out, whatever. But Tony, like he smashes up the lighting in the Amoeba Records in the elevator, and then
oh, that's why
yeah,
we never
that's
have
what,
albums up in
yeah,
there.
we did have them in there. We had our own section, a little Willow Wisp section and everything, and
Yeah.
then they banned us and took them out of there because of that
Yeah.
incident.
I,
But
I think I think it's a psychological thing. I think it's just a
yeah,
fear of success,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
like
I mean, I love the
uh
guy to death. He's my brother. He'll always be my
yeah.
brother and stuff. And we've had our differences and stuff. And I do see, and he is doing better now. I mean, I just heard some of that new Black Heron Gallery. Me and my brother just did
Oh,
a
right.
review on it for the next episode, and I had my reservations on certain areas of it. But his drums, to me, I was like, wow, that's the best Tony's drums ever sounded, even when I was with him. It's like he
Oh,
got a really
wow.
good drum mix, and he's actually playing really good on time. There was a time where Tony's fluctuation would always kind of throw us off, and we
Yeah.
try to get play with well, those triggers, not triggers,
Metronome.
but yeah, metronome, and he just wouldn't have it, and so that's
Yeah.
why we just kind of learned to play along with him, and that's why
Hmm.
sometimes it's hard for me now that I don't play with a drummer. I'm playing to like drum tracks on YouTube and stuff, and it's hard
Yeah.
for me sometimes to really lock in because I'm just so used to playing. He was the only drummer I ever played with for like 20
Yeah.
something years. So
Oh, right. Yeah.
different.
When I was, we recorded that EP Chameleon in my bedroom.
Hmm.
And yeah, like trying to get him to go on a click was,
Yeah,
like, trying to herd cats. It was just
Yeah.
impossible.
But
And
it's got to be natural. It's got to be,
yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, I mean, a drummer's job is to
Yeah.
keep the beat with precision,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
um,
Well, I used to watch Tony at rehearsal, and he'd be watching us, and I think, no, we got to be watching you. You're trying to watch us,
yeah,
see what we're doing, and that's what's throwing him off. It's like, no,
yeah.
you're the timekeeper. We're to follow you. You don't follow us.
Well, yeah. When I was playing bass, essentially, I had to be the counter and the timekeeper,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's crazy though. Like, if someone would have told me back in those days that I'd end up moving to North Carolina and joining a hippie jam band,
Oh
I
yeah.
would have
So
I would have lit
what's
them on
going on
fire.
there?
And
Yeah. How
yeah.
did that happen? So
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's pretty
it's
cool.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, we're playing festivals and stuff, which I never
Yeah.
got to do with Willow Wisp, and you
Yeah.
know, it's a lot easier to make moves and progress in a smaller city than like
Yeah. Yeah.
L.A. and all
Yeah.
the pay to
Well, I
play
always say
crap.
these days you don't even have to move to LA anymore. Like, even
Mhm.
back, like, had we started the band today, like, we would not even think about going to Hollywood, especially with social media and stuff. It's like all these bands are packing their bags, moving to Hollywood, thinking they're going to be
Mhm.
rock stars. Stay home, just,
Yeah.
practice your shit. If you're
Well,
good, you're going to get signed. You might not even get signed because there's really no real record labels down there. It's
no.
just, they're just all major distributors, but
Yeah.
you just gotta play shows and get your name out there. It's a sea of madness out there. The fact that
But
everybody and their grandmother is on Spotify or iTunes and their pet dog or whatever, it's
yeah.
like, well, you just gotta stand apart. But to your friends back at the trailer park, you're a rock star. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. 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 It's yeah. It's not about, you don't need to be famous
yeah,
to make a living, or
yeah,
and that's a big misconception. And like, I mean, back in the day, when I started playing, my first gigging band was in like 1993. Yeah, Albino Meat Machine. And
oh, cool.
yeah, grunge rock and stuff. And
Yeah,
back then it was like, okay, we need a demo tape, and we need to get it to like A&R people. We need to, like, we need to get the record deal.
yeah,
That's the thing. And but that's been over for such a long time. But
yeah,
even in the 2010 teens, with Willow Wisp, like, that was something that I couldn't get through to Tony. Like, it doesn't work that way anymore.
yeah, yeah,
We need to do all of our own stuff. We need to
yeah.
build an online presence. So like,
Hmm.
I created SoundCloud and the
Yeah,
Facebook page and
yeah, yeah,
all this stuff. And
yeah.
um
And I think anybody who gets into it where they think they're going to get rich or make a lot of money, you're in it for the wrong reasons. You got to do it because
yeah.
you love it. You love creating music. Like I was at last time when you were messaging me, I was at the Destruction and Nervosa concert in downtown Portland,
Ah,
um, and I was surprised because it's a small venue. It's kind of, it looks like about maybe the size of the Roxy. It's a
yeah.
decent sized venue. But here's a band that's been around since 1984. Destruction Nervosa, all female thrash metal band who's got a lot of they got a lot of press, a lot of media.
Mm,
The 5 or 6 albums out, and their last album was just kick ass. And they tour all over the world. But I see them last night, and there couldn't have been no more than 250 people there. And I'm thinking,
right.
wow, what I mean? So how are they making it? Their shirts are only $30. Most of the time you go to a concert, t-shirts like $50. So I think they're going home broke. It's safe to say they're going back
Yeah.
to the Germany or wherever they're from, pretty much
Yeah.
broke.
Like, yeah, it's,
So,
if you like, touring is such a big risk. Like, a
yeah.
lot of the time you're just lucky to break even,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, and you know the game. Like,
Yeah.
merch is how you make it. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. You got to have merch.
you
It's very
gotta
important.
sell merch. You gotta
Hmm.
be teaching
Yeah.
if you're good, and you gotta have multiple sources of income to make it as a musician. You can't just
Exactly. Yeah.
um, put out a record and hope that people buy it. Like,
Yeah.
that was my big mistake. I've got a bunch of albums online, but
Hmm.
I never understood the marketing, because it
Yeah.
runs against my personality type. And so
Yeah.
I'd slave over all these albums, blood, sweat, and tears, and put them up on Bandcamp and SoundCloud and all that shit, and
Yeah.
sit back and wait for the views to come in. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
nope.
I get a lot of views, but I don't make a lot of money. I don't get enough views that's going to make a lot of money. But even like this is just to show you like what Spotify pays. It's like
Oh, it's
40,000
shit.
views out of 40,000 listens out of all my music I've had for a year and a half out there. But I've only
Yeah.
made maybe $57, I think was what after the splits, I split some with my brother for production. And then,
Right.
my lyrics, if I have a lyricist, I'll split 50-50 because I consider the lyrics is just as important as the song,
Oh
so
yeah.
I try to make that even for all the songwriters. I'm not the type that's
I,
like, I wrote this percentage of the song and you wrote only that percentage of the song. No,
right.
we wrote it equally because it was not going to survive as a song until all of us are in it, whether I do it
Right.
all or I do it with someone else,
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I was like that.
Speaking of, you had a big single that you released. I think it was in 2020. That was trying to remember the name of the song. I checked it out because you really
Yeah.
hyped it up, and
Yeah.
it was very very politically driven, like the lyrics.
Thinking of Warmonger was
Warmonger, that's the one. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Did you write those lyrics?
Yeah, I wrote those lyrics, and I'm not a lyricist, but and those lyrics took me like about maybe 2 months to write because I would just come up with a couple lines, and then I would think of another line, and then I already had the melody because I have to do the melody first, and how I'm going to
Yeah.
phrase the vocals, and then I would just kind of write the words around. But what started it was when they first when I was watching the news, and they were that time that terrorists got chased into that cave, and then the dog went in. Remember that hero dog? Forgot what the dog's name was.
Huh.
It's actually a hero, and I can't remember his name, but he chased the dog. And the dogs chased him into the cave, and then the cave blew up, but that dog survived. And obviously that terrorist blew up his
Oh.
whole family and stuff like that. So that
Oh
was,
shit.
I think it was Abu something. It was one of those ISIS terrorists or whatever he was.
Right.
So that kind of inspired the lyric. But there's a part of the lyric where it says, I can't even think of the lyric. That's why when I think of lyrics, I can't. But anyway, there's a part in the lyric that started the entire lyric of the song, and that just kind of went from there because it's basically about warmongers who are obsessed with war. Oh yeah, John Bolton. What was he like?
Oh.
Yeah, guys like him who are just like, rather than solving things diplomatically, they'd rather just go to war because it's going to make money and everything like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically the main premise of the song. And I think almost like when I think about what's going on with Ukraine and Putin and everything, I kind of feel like, wow, this song kind of is still relevant for that, in the sense of
Yeah.
Putin is that
It's
warmonger that I was thinking about all along, not that
there's
Abu guy.
there's always going to be one.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like I wrote a song a couple years back that I never finished it. Like I went through a period where I was writing like 4 songs a day. Like when I was on meth, I was just like
Yeah.
super productive
Yeah.
and like produced it like my magnum
That's what made me
opus.
love math because I
And
was writing these
oh yeah,
crazy melodies and
yeah,
shit.
totally.
And
But
drawing.
oh yeah, I did a lot of that too. And
Yeah.
but I wrote a song that predicted the Trump presidency before
Oh
it
yeah.
happened.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
like what was it? Something about like Golden Tower or street of walls lined with corpses in the sun, a golden tower, a golden tower, something at all like, but yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I had snippets of the Eisenhower closing address, where he warns about the
Yeah.
military-industrial complex, and
Oh damn.
which I always love that speech. And I was like, wow, that I miss the days where like presidents actually talked with eloquence
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
decorum. And
Hmm.
sure, yeah, he created the Iron Dome, but and waited
Yeah.
till
Yeah.
the last minute to try and undo it. But
Very true. Yeah. Yeah. Trump was just like, man. And what's scary is that I think Trump might get elected again. It's just looking like that's the
I
scary part.
we won't survive another one. Like,
There's
there's
no
no
way.
way.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm hoping he just goes to jail before then, or prison. Because he does get closer. He's got to go to prison at some point for all that shit. He's at the AG, the New
you
York,
would
but
you would think, except for
he's like a cartoonist,
he's.
man. He'll
I
just keep
think
going
he's.
back.
I think he's. I think he's got enough dirt on enough people
Yeah.
to keep himself safe. That's why
Mhm.
he's so blatant. He's not even subtle about things,
Yeah.
because he knows people can't touch him. And I think that's the deal with a lot of these GOP politicians, especially
Mhm.
because it's like they're like the whole "don't say gay" bill. It's like,
Yeah.
well, that's pretty ironic. Matt Gaetz going around calling people groomers,
Yeah.
considering the
Exactly.
charges against him.
I think
And
it's funny they call it the "Don't Say Gay" bill, but you have to say "gay" to say the bill. It's like,
well, that's not what the bill's actually called. That's
yeah,
just
yeah,
the
it's like
nickname of it.
the
Yeah.
nickname of it. Yeah, because like, yeah, that's just bizarre to me too. Like with the whole thing with Disney and that
Oh yeah.
that Santis guy, DeSantis, whatever it is. It's
He's
almost
actually hoping. It looks like he's gearing up to run for 2024 as a Republican
yeah.
candidate.
Yeah,
which
he's always angry
that's
looking. You know, so,
that's not good news.
yeah.
Like uh,
Because
yeah.
I think someone needs to run against Biden too. Because I think Biden's doing a good job. I think he's got his flaws. Like every president, but can he survive against who's coming up in the 2024? And
Well,
then who if he doesn't win, would Kamala Harris run and take over or what?
oh, I hope not.
Yeah, because then that would
No, yeah, I'm not a fan of Biden. Yeah, this past election, it was just you
like
know, giant douche or turd sandwich,
yeah, yeah.
and
Which is
uh,
basically like what they did back in 2016. All the people that voted for Trump mostly voted for him because they didn't want Hillary to win. So
right.
most of the people that voted for Biden is because they didn't want Trump to win. It wasn't because
I
they
was
really preferred Biden. But
uh, yeah, status quo Joe is
yeah,
what I was calling him.
yeah,
But
uh-huh,
yeah, I was a Bernie supporter then, and then in the
yeah,
last one, I was all Yang gang.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I really like Yang. I wish he would have done it. Even I like Buttigieg. I thought Buttigieg would have been good. I think he might have been maybe it would have been a little bit
wine cave,
inexperienced.
like.
Yeah, yeah, maybe
But
a little inexperienced, but I think he still would have been good. I think definitely would have been, because he's young and got a lot. Would be our first gay president, which would be cool, I guess.
eh, I don't really care about all of the identity
Yeah,
politics. I just
yeah,
want good policies, and I want
yeah,
them coming from somebody who isn't corrupt
exactly.
with lobbyist money. Like
Yeah,
that's the thing with Buttigieg. Like he's a career politician. And he's
yeah,
got he's got uh, big interests in his pocket.
hmm,
And so it's like he might be on point with some of the messaging, but
yeah.
but it's like once
I think Bernie would have been really good though. Like, but
I
Bernie's thinking about running though. It's like that
uh
definitely
I mean
take him down.
I
You know,
love Bernie. I do. And like he's just his consistency, like you can tell that
yeah,
he's sincere and passionate in his values and that he wants
yeah,
the best for people because of his consistency, like
yeah,
in all of his time in
yeah,
office. As a president, I don't I think he's better off where he's at.
yeah.
And But see, the thing is, like, if he would have got elected in 2016, his
Hmm,
policy ideas were what we needed, and I think they would have worked.
yeah,
But now, like, if like even like in 2020, the reason I went from the Bernie Bros to Yang Gang was that like Bernie's policy ideas are too little, too late. Like they're not extreme enough, really.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, and Yeah, UBI, that seems to be like the a really necessary thing. Like if we can't squeeze the corporations enough to pay people a living wage and give
yeah.
them benefits and leave and stuff like that, then you
Hmm,
know putting cash in everybody's hands,
yeah.
is
Yeah, so
uh,
it's so bizarre they won't do that. I mean, think about it. I mean, with the economy the way it is now, or the inflation, it's like just give everybody a bunch of money and just let them go out and spend it, man.
yeah,
That's the way it's gonna fix the economy. It all pays for itself eventually. You know,
yeah. Well,
fix.
it's kind of silly. I've always thought money was just
Yeah,
really weird. I mean, because it's just a shared psychological
yeah,
phenomenon. Like it's made up. It's
yeah.
fantasy.
Basically, like
You
what
know?
crypto is. Basically, now you're not invest a
Yeah.
little bit in crypto, but that's basically what what the concept of it.
Right.
So many people.
Oh, I remember when you were on a big crypto kick.
Yeah, it was that Dogecoin that really started off. It was like because I just put in like $50 or whatever. All of a sudden I see it go up to like 200, 300, and then I put in a little bit more, and then then the whole craze about Dogecoin and Elon Musk and everything, and
Yeah.
then it just crashed.
Oh
So
yeah.
now I got a little bit invested because my brother because he's really good at that stuff. He makes good money off his stocks and his investments, but he said you just got to put it in and just forget about it. And
Yeah.
wait about 5 years, and so I got some stuff I'm just waiting on and figure out
Well,
maybe in 5 years I'll be. Let's say I'm 53 now. I'll be 58 if I'm a millionaire at 58. I still have enough time to enjoy it, I guess. Yeah,
yeah. um, was it yeah, I heard Bitcoin just like drop by
yeah,
half
crazy.
recently, like the
Yeah, I was
biggest
looking at my
crash
phone.
ever.
Like, holy shit! I was like, where's all my money at? But
I have a buddy who he runs a business doing like UI design for crypto businesses and stuff like that.
yeah,
And he was trying to like he offered me a job, like it's basically like freelancing, doing graphic design stuff and NFTs and everything. And it's like,
Yeah.
but let me guess, it all pays in crypto. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, what am I going to do with that?
Yeah.
I'm not a drug dealer, so
Yeah. 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 Yeah, the NFT, I still don't understand how the NFTs work, but you can make good money if you just like if you put some like with the Shiba coin, like I have like 3 million shares. If it goes, which is only like maybe $50 invested, but if those tend to go up a lot, and I end
Yeah.
up making like $2,000 or $3,000, I could just cash out, or I could just leave it in and just it's gonna lose or what? It's like baseball cards. If I give you a
Yeah.
baseball card is worth $1, then like 5 years later it's worth $10 or $100.
I didn't.
And then it drops again. Well, you're still going to have that baseball card. It's just
Yeah.
the value dropped is all. That's basically what all the crypto is, basically.
Sure, sure. I was just gonna say I didn't collect baseball cards. I collected Marvel cards.
Yeah, me too. Like those Kiss cards and
Yeah.
Battlestar Galactica, even Greece. Well, me and my
Uh,
little brother, at the time, my little brother, he's still my little brother, but
yeah.
he was 5 and actually, he was 3 and I was, because he's 5 years younger than me, so I was 8, he was 3. We were shoplifting like little toys and stuff because we didn't have a whole lot growing up. Our dad would just kind of, or he was my stepdad, his real dad. He would just kind of take off, and our mom was mentally ill, and
Oh,
she was,
that's exactly how I was raised.
yeah,
The
yeah. So
exact
she
same
was on the
situation.
couch.
Dad
So
always on the road, mom
yeah,
in
yeah,
bed being
in bed.
crazy, and
Yeah, so it just left us to kind of go out and just mess around and goof around. We didn't get into too much trouble. We'd be in the store and shoplift not baseball cards, but this Battlestar Galactica Kiss. That's when I first got into Kiss, but I didn't know they were banned. I would put the cards on my wall. There was a time where I had a crush on Ace Frehley because I thought Ace was a girl. And I don't know. I remember being like 8 years old and kind of fantasizing about it, thinking, was I really hitting puberty at that time? And thinking, then later on you find, oh, that's a guy. It's like, okay, well, so be it. If it turned me on, it turned me on.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
Yeah,
everybody's at least a little heteroflexible,
yeah,
so from
exactly. Yeah,
time to
right.
time.
Who needs labels when it comes to
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, flesh is flesh. Get your rocks off however you need
exactly.
to, just
Yeah.
as long as it's
Yeah.
consensual.
That's what it really boils down to. This whole like you got to label it like heterosexual, homosexual, and all these like we got all of like how many? I think there's more labels now than there are genres of music. It seems like
Uh, yeah,
I don't even know
yeah.
what's like. There's pansexual and what's some more. And these are probably stuff that's been around. But
Sapiosexual
yeah,
yeah. There's
there's a lot
a
of things.
lot, and then like all the gender micro identities.
Yeah,
It's kind of obnoxious. Like
mm,
it's I mean, because I think a lot of it is performative.
mm,
Like teenagers, want to feel special and a part of
yeah,
something. And
yeah,
it's kind of trendy to be, I guess, and marginalized for
yeah.
whatever reason.
I mean, it'd be nice if we could just all just feel how we feel and be who we are and just go about our business and just live life and
Yeah.
love each other. And if the only way you should be mean to somebody if they're being mean to you, if they're being mean to someone else, and or we want to protect somebody or whatever. Obviously, we got a lot of evil people out there.
Yeah.
But I think that at the end
See,
of the day,
that's Satanism in a nutshell.
yeah, pretty much. I always say like, "Are you Satanist?" No, I think I probably have the same ideology or whatever philosophy, and I might have some Christian in me, but I'm not a
Yeah.
Christian.
Right.
I have my thoughts the way they are and how I was raised, and how I grew up, and
Yeah.
I just
That's how I
always
tend to be, and it's funny how adversity, how often it cultures altruism in a
yeah,
long. Not all the time, because I mean, some people grow up shit and they turn out to be, Jeffrey
yeah,
Dahmer. So,
yeah, exactly, yeah, very
uh,
true,
I think it relies on kind of a genetic predisposition to outside stress and all that shit.
yeah,
Um,
very true.
but yeah, so yeah. So did you like what kind of degree did you have to get to do what you do?
Um, Not really a degree. Well, I don't know if it's. I'm really bad
That's,
with like bachelor's degree. What's considered a bachelor's degree? What's considered associate? I think I just got the diploma. Like I just did a 10-month
uh,
diploma type thing on one of those
certification.
yeah, like a vocational school that you see on the Jerry Springer commercials. It was like, get off the couch and call this number, for a career. And it was
Oh
ICDC
yeah.
College, so I called them and they hooked me up with a student loan and a grant. I think I got a grant or something after I told them everything I wanted to do. And when I found out later, I could have just went to like there's this place called ACBO here in Oregon, which is called MHBO now, mental health something something with the acronyms. But and I could have just went and did all my stuff there and got certified, a little bit
Mm,
quicker. But I did that. Then you have to do an internship. So I've been with the place that I started interning which is called Inner Journey Healing Arts, and here in Hillsboro. And I've been with them since my internship. I just,
Oh, cool.
I did send they teach you how to do a resume. I've never been good at resumes or anything like that because I
Mhm.
always worked telemarketing jobs. You didn't need
Oh, right.
resume
Yeah.
jobs for that. You just get on the
Can you
phone,
speak and read?
yeah, can
Yeah.
you read a pitch? Put some
Yeah.
numbers on the board. And so I had to learn how to do all that. And then once I did, I was faxing my resume to all these different treatment centers. And my only problem is the cover page. I had the same person I was supposed to be contacting. I had that same name on every one of them. So it's
Mm.
like, and I wasn't getting no calls. And then finally, my boss called me and even joked about it. He's like, yeah, I saw you were asking for Maria from LifeWorks. And it's like, I was like, oh shit. But he gave me a shot because they're like a kind of a smaller, I would say mom and pop shop in a way for treatment
Right.
centers, and so very family like. Even though he's my boss, but he's also like my brother. Like he always has my back. I have his, and him and his
Awesome.
wife and everything. And so I've been with them ever since. They've been real supportive, and they give me the creative freedom to where I can work with the clients, and I don't have to stick with the same structure that LifeWorks, all these big uh, other treatment centers do, where it's everything's so clinical and
If it's state funded, you have to
yeah,
like kind of
yeah, yeah,
follow a certain
yeah. I try to bend
criteria.
the rules a little bit. At the same time, it's like my main focus. I do have my boundaries that I set, and I got my ethics I got to stick with. Like I can't just have a client, hey, I'm having trouble. Okay, well, come over to my house. We'll talk or whatever. Or you can stay
Yeah.
the night if you're homeless. We had
Right.
a counselor that did that, and she got fired, obviously, but because
Uh,
DHS caught on it, that she was just letting clients stay at her house and stuff like that. And
uh,
so that's a no-no in that, even though because it is very easy to get attached to some people because you become friendly with them and you get to know a little portion of their life for the time that they're there. So it is
right.
very easy to like kind of I've had clients like find out I play music and like, oh man, I play too. We should get together and jam. And I have to,
Right.
yeah,
No.
maybe after you graduate,
Yeah.
like a year after
Yeah.
you graduate. But
That's how it is with my therapist. Like we've become like yeah, pretty close, like
uh-huh.
friends. And it's got to a point, it's like, we would hang out outside of therapy if we weren't in a patient
Yeah, yeah,
doctor
patience.
relationship.
Yeah,
And I was like, well, I mean, maybe we can stop treatments. He's like, yeah, but if I did that, like, I'm so busy, I don't have much of a social life outside of work. So like this way we get to talk for a guaranteed hour a week. So
yeah.
it's like um
And you
but
could feel it, right?
oh, I wanted to ask you, yeah, so Oregon passed a bill legalizing or decriminalizing all drugs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it feels to me like ever since they did do that, that's when I've been seeing the increase in these deaths of like this blue pill, and I have been
Oh,
getting a
okay.
lot more clients that are sort of meth as their drug of choice,
Mm,
and it's just yeah, I feel like since they've done that, because here's the thing: if you get caught with it and it's your first offense, you have a choice to go to treatment or you have to pay $100 fine. I think that's
mm,
where they fucked up. No one's gonna pay. If you're addicted and you're spending tons of money on your drugs every week, $100 fine ain't gonna be nothing for you. Especially if
right.
you're not ready to go to treatment, you're just gonna pay the fine and just go, or your dealer's gonna
Yeah.
pay it for you. Because
Right. Yeah.
just to keep you hooked and stuff like that. So it's very, and I because we thought like when they put that in place that we get all these like clients coming in like choosing treatment over the fine, but that
Right.
was the case. I said yeah, because they need to make it like either 30 days in jail or treatment, because 30 days in jail could really fuck a person up. You could lose
Yeah.
your place, you
Well,
could lose
that's
kids.
like it. Well,
Yeah,
I mean that's part of the problem, I think, because I'm for legalizing everything
yeah, me
because
too.
our criminal justice system is broken. I mean,
Yeah,
it's functioning as designed, which is to make some people rich
hmm,
and provide free slave labor.
yeah,
Because that's the only way we have legal slavery. Slavery is incarcerated people, and yeah, so it's working as designed, but it's fucking evil. And
hmm,
somebody who's got an addiction problem, um, it might lead to criminal behavior to support their habits. Not always. Like I never, when I was a meth addict, I never
hmm,
stole anything from anybody or
yeah,
did anything violent. But somebody who's just using drugs to self-medicate,
yeah.
throwing them in jail is just going to make whatever their
Oh
conditions
yeah,
are
yeah.
exponentially worse.
Yeah, there's
So,
been times where I've had a client, he was addicted to meth. He'd do good, 3 weeks later he relapsed, and then there was one time his PO was wanting to just put him in jail, and I had to talk to the PO. I said, no, don't put him in jail. Give me some more time with this dude, you know,
Yeah.
because he's not gonna learn anything in jail. So she gave me that chance, and then I actually did end up helping him turn himself around, and now
Oh,
he
that's awesome.
graduated, and I think he's got like his license in automotive and stuff like that from.
Oh, hell yeah.
This PO used to be kind of a stink ass towards our treatment center. She used to be like one of those, I'm going to send my clients to LifeWorks, not those little inner journey people or whatever, But I think now she's like super cool and been sending people over every now and then. So
Oh,
yeah,
dude, that's got to feel fantastic being able
yeah,
to help somebody like that.
yeah. You get these success stories that do make you, it do remind you of why you're doing it, because it also helps me keep myself grounded. And even though I'm 10 years sober, and I always say, just because I'm 10 years sober, I'm still just as vulnerable as the guy walking in with 1 or 2 days. I could
Right.
relapse in a heartbeat, but the difference is I know myself so well to where, like, if I say, maybe I could have a drink, like I'm at Destruction last night, I'm thinking, if I have a beer, be okay. But then my
Yeah.
mind will say, no, here's what it'll be. You'll be okay, yeah, for tonight, maybe even tomorrow, maybe even a week. But 2 weeks later, you're going to start drinking even every day. You're not going to be able to stop. Then you're going to go look for a meth dealer. Then you're going to lose your job. You're going to lose your apartment. You're going to lose everything. And all that stuff goes through the mind. And boom, there's them. And then I'm done with that fight. And you move
Well,
on.
here's something that I had recently developed, and I told you I quit drinking on the
Yeah.
1st of January after
Yeah.
25 years,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. That's about
leading
what
up
I've
to
drank
that, I
25
was
years. Yeah.
yeah, and I was drinking towards the end like 18 beers a day or something like that every day,
Yeah.
and yeah, and the liver problems and but the clarity and the energy that you get
Yeah.
is fantastic. Like for instance, I've been wanting to podcast for like the past 4 years and just
Yeah.
keep
And now you're
talking
doing it.
about it and not doing it, keep talking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
And like, and now I'm like getting all kinds of shit done. But the one thing that I've noticed, is, it doesn't function well without alcohol is being social in public,
Yeah.
and that's because of my autism. When I'm in like a venue or something, and like the sensory overload, it gets to where I can't understand what people are saying around me. It just sounds like blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 and like
Mhm.
I just like clam up and like, okay,
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
here? And with what I do as an entertainer, as a stand-up comedian and a
Yeah.
musician, like
And
when I'm in that setting, I have to be able to network. That's
mhm.
that's my job. That's part of
Yeah.
my job. And so there was one night about 2 months ago. Me and my boyfriend were kind of on the rocks, and so I
Mhm.
was at this show by myself. And yeah, like the panic setting in, and I'm just like, oh, crawling out of my skin.
Yeah.
I say, okay, I'll have a drink. I just need to deal with these symptoms so I can function.
Mhm.
And I had like 2 beers, and then I'm feeling really guilty and coming down on myself. And then this club promoter is like, here, you want some mushrooms? And I'm like, ah, yeah, and then that might help. And so I eat some mushrooms, and
Yeah.
I start tripping a little bit, uh, and this thought, like I'm starting at first, like the mushrooms are amplifying the guilt that I'm feeling from
Yeah.
breaking my sobriety.
Yeah.
And but then something clicks in my brain, and it goes, um, well, see, what you're doing now is you're having just enough drink to take this edge off so that you can communicate effectively. What you
Yeah.
were doing before was self-destruction, and
Yeah.
because you had a lack of love for yourself, and there was
Yeah.
no reason to be doing that. You weren't
Mhm.
accomplishing anything.
Yep.
So why don't you just use it as a tool, like it's like any other drug, like aspirin or antidepressants, just
Yeah. Yeah.
just use it when you need it. And since then, I've been able to go to a bar, like if I'm performing or something, I can have like 2 beers.
And be
And
fine.
yeah, and I like during the day when I'm at home by myself, I don't even think about alcohol. Like the urges
Yeah.
have completely disappeared. And that's one of the things why I've experienced firsthand now why psilocybin is such a hot area of study, for studies for treating addiction and
Yeah.
depression
Yeah.
and things like
Yeah.
that, because it works. It fucking
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's good, and that's amazing because again, the idea is like not that alcohol is bad; it's how we use it and how we drink it. It's like
right.
alcohol is meant to be enjoyed and be able to use for like something like in a social environment, but some individuals, someone like me who tried to do that. I tried to be the guy that could just drink at a club and then not drink anymore. But I just had to come to accept that I just can't be that guy, and I'm happy with that. And
Right.
because it's one thing to accept, but then you got to be okay with it after you accept it. But okay, I'm going to embrace it as like, even though I noticed when I'm pretty sure like when you first stopped drinking on the 1st of January, you probably went through a bunch of yucky feelings and throwing up, or maybe even some little bit of withdrawals. Maybe even if you didn't, you probably didn't feel too hot the first couple of days, right?
Yeah.
Well, usually that's the time when sometimes we relapse because we think like, fuck, I
Yep.
need to make this go away. But I always say you got to embrace that pain and not resist it, because when you
Yep.
resist it, obviously, and you did it right. You know, and every day is a brand new day. So today you're not drinking, but if you go to a club tomorrow, you might just have those 2 beers, and that's fine. Or you might not have the 2 beers. You might find yourself not having the 2 beers. The fact that you
Yeah.
got it under control, and some people can do that, and some people can't, and that's a beautiful thing.
Well, see, one of the things that always bugged me, like I remember when I was like 20 years old, I went to an AA meeting in Bumblefuck, South Carolina,
Yeah,
and so they were real heavy on the God this, God that, and it's
yeah,
like, okay,
mm-hmm.
well, this is kind of alienating because I'm not a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah,
um, and but the thing like that really stuck in my craw was you have to admit that you have no power, and you have to give your power up to a higher power, give yourself up to it. And it's like, well, that that seems like you're like crippling, like that reminds me of Annie Banks from Misery,
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
oh, well, you're not going anywhere, break
yeah,
your
yeah,
ankles, it's and that's the thing, like, that's why people replace their alcohol addiction with AA meetings to
yeah,
fill, like, because
yeah.
because when you're
That's why I could never get into AA, because I felt like I don't want to make that my life. I even told my counselor that when I went to LifeWorks for my. She's like, "Well, you don't have to go to AA, but just know it's always there for your support. But whatever you've been doing this so far to stay sober, just that's your program. You found it. Like
yeah.
you don't have, there's no rule that you have to go to AA, but they make it feel like you have to. Like, no, you can't have relationships while you're in recovery. You can't do
All
this,
right.
can't do that. They tell you everything you can do.
Yeah. Well, but like that, but the point is, I don't agree with any philosophy that insists on convincing people that they don't have power.
Yeah, yeah,
That I don't agree with any philosophy that tries to strip power away from the
yeah, yeah,
individual,
yeah.
because that's a control mechanism.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
it's brainwashing is what it is.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and that's kind of the way they approach it in a sense. Like like me, like I admit I didn't have the power to quit when I was really trying to quit, and but
Right.
but at the end of the day, I really did have the power because I did it,
Right.
and it wasn't like going to AA or believing that I didn't have the power. I just pulled it out of somewhere because I had that will to live. My grandmother always used to
Right.
say, "Where there's a will, there's a way," and that would always stick with me even when I woke up homeless on Van Nuys at the AMP mini market before I moved up here, and
Ah.
I thought to myself,
What
if I
part of
keep
Van Nuys? I used to live there.
probably Sepulveda Boulevard, right? There's the AMP and mini market, Sepulveda and Sarah. What's that one street? There's Woodman, and then it's in between Woodman and
Oh,
whatever
okay. That was a
others.
few blocks from my house.
Yeah, yeah. So in that area, there was that one bar. I forget, we used to go to that bar all the time next to our apartment complex, and
Oh, Liquid Zoo.
yeah, yeah, Liquid Zoo. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a spot. I remember spending like $300 in one night at that place one time.
Holy
It was like,
shit.
yeah, but I was staying with this roommate, these roommates, whatever. And then I met this one neighbor, and she always would have a gallon of tequila, and I just started drinking all the time with her and hanging out at her
Mm.
house. She would be the type to be super nice, and then she'd get pissed off and kick me out. And so
Ah.
she just kicked me out for good. So I just ended up like just wandering the streets for at least about a week or so, going to the library in the daytime and just like but before that I was drinking tequila. I was doing the meth when I
Yeah.
could because I had like a South Sider friend that would hook me up with the meth or whatever, and I would stay at his house every now and then when I could. But yeah, I just woke up the hot burning sun on that AMP money market and
Ugh.
thinking like, and I had enough money for a plane ticket. I was either going to fly to my sister's house in South Dakota, or I can call my brother here in Portland who's already living up here doing good and stay with him. But I figure if I call my sister,
I think you chose correctly because
yeah,
fuck
because I
South
would have. Yeah,
Dakota.
plus I think my sisters and they kind of have battled with their own addictions. I think I would have. There's no way I would have gotten myself clean and sober. I needed to go
Right.
somewhere where, like, my brother was totally straight, like he didn't do drugs or drink. So, and he'd be a little tough on me. So, luckily he said yes, and I flew up there. But But I thought to myself, that's why I was like, when I woke up, I was thinking like, I'm either going to be dead in a week or probably sooner, or in jail or on Skid Row. And I really didn't want to go to Skid Row because I've been down there before, seen the way it
That
looked, and it's real
practically
scary.
is a death sentence.
Yeah, and so I just made that phone call, and because everyone would always tell me, call your brother, he'll help you, he'll help you. I was
Yeah.
like, no, I don't want to burn that bridge. I burned all these bridges. I was burning bridges left and right,
Oh yeah.
and so, but it was probably the best thing I could ever done, because asking for help like that, and I
That's
always try to
that's
tell
that's
people,
what you need to do. Like that's how
yeah,
I ended up in North Carolina because
yeah,
I was in the throes of a full-on psychotic breakdown from
mhm,
all the sleep deprivation, and like I was hearing voices just like threatening to murder me everywhere I went, like nonstop. I thought my neighbors were like spies that had hacked into my network. I thought the
yeah,
FBI was trying to cut an amnesty deal with me through
mhm,
telepathy if I ratted
yeah,
out my drug dealer friends, and it's like
yeah.
it was
That's the
just craziness.
life of a cyborg. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
um, but oh yeah, so Portland had quite a fucking show of things during BLM, and
yeah,
a lot of the right used that, and still to this day uses Portland as the prime example of
yeah,
why liberalism is a failure, why socialism is evil, and
yeah.
Portland is a lawless hellscape
Yeah,
where
like I go to downtown Portland. It's like it looks all right down there. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of boarded up places and stuff, but it's not
yeah,
nothing like they. And I live in the more in the suburbs area of Portland. Like if I go to downtown Portland, it looks a lot like downtown LA, where I'm at right now. It kind of looks like if I were living in Sherman Oaks or somewhere,
oh
like
right.
in the valley, kind of.
Oh, I
So,
lived there too for a
oh
while.
yeah, yeah. I lived all over the valley: Sherman Oaks,
Yeah.
Reseda, North Hollywood.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, fan.
um yeah, so like yeah, during the riots though, like did you see any of
No,
that? Nope.
no, I did kind of tend to stay away from that area, but I did remember going there a couple months afterwards, and I was, going to the record store, and look down one street, and there was a bunch of protesters just marching with and they looked, they're stomping their feet and everything, and they were like
Yeah.
walking towards down the street, and that was I was like, wow, that looks pretty interesting. Maybe I should jump out of the bus and go join them or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think, nah, I'm going to the record store.
Yeah. Um
I support whatever it is they're protesting, but I
yeah,
just think it's crazy.
I wanted to join in, but I was on probation, so
Yeah, yeah.
um
I just hate all the Trumpers that are, with the Capitol, and they try to say, well, what about the BLM riots and all the stuff? It's like
right.
it was a totally different thing. They were fighting for something that we know is real, which is injustice, and which is cops killing black people. They were,
And they didn't
and they're
instigate violence. The
yeah, and
cops
they didn't
instigated
investigate. And if they
violence.
did, they're angry. You kind of expect them to be angry. They're not attacking something because of a lie, which was the stolen election with a complete
Right.
lie, and they totally bought into it, and they totally destroyed. They put a stain on America for years to come based on a
Right.
lie. So
And
the big
and
difference there. You know.
now they're turning the conversation like the constant hypocrisy is baffling to me. But like after 30 years of making abortion, or 30
Yeah,
plus years of making abortion clinics
I
a
know.
war zone, a
Yeah.
peaceful protest outside of a judge's house, like, whoa, you liberals need to calm down, okay,
Yeah,
calm
yeah, yeah,
down.
yeah, right.
um
Yeah, that's another big mess, that abortion thing. It's like, you know what?
oh yeah.
I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't feel abortion is murder. I never have. I just think,
Right.
unless the government decides to give that baby a social security number, then yeah, then you could say, or that fetus a social security number,
Right.
then you
Well,
could call it murder.
here's the thing. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And the thing is, I think that the vast majority of Republicans, um, this isn't for them. This isn't an issue of murdering a baby, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because if they cared about the sanctity of life, then they wouldn't be against make helping people have a better life when they're born.
exactly.
It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, like you're protected when you're in the womb. As soon as you're
yeah,
out, like get a fucking job.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know what are you, 2 years old, into the coal mines with you? You got
Uh-huh.
hands. You
Yeah,
can get into small spaces. And it's
yeah,
like,
right. Yeah,
so it's not about that. What it's about is it's about control, and it's about like the fact that this law is going to disproportionately affect poor people and people of color.
Yeah.
Those are the exact people that they want to spit babies out into the system.
Yeah.
Go through our increasingly broken public education system where they're in the process of rewriting history too. So this type of revolutionary behavior stops because people won't know about our past and how people have been treated. So they're creating once, because our birth rates have been dropping. Like we're on track to be like Japan or China, where like they have an elderly population and not enough young people to take care of them, so they're building all these crazy robots to try and do it. And but we need wage slaves. We need cogs in the machine to keep this laissez-faire capitalism going. And so I think that's the real motivation. And they just so happen to find some really devout Catholics to say no, it's about a religious but again, separation of church and state, that's pretty much gone out the fucking window.
That's true, very true. It's like it's just bizarre to me. It's like we had COVID, now the Ukraine war, now we got abortion, now we got this new thing, the replacement theory, that's going to be the big buzzword for everyone because of this fucking maniac shooter that killed those people in New York the other day.
Oh, yeah.
The white supremacist guy, and it's like now was critical race theory. Now we're gonna hear all about replacement theory. Man.
Well, here's the fucking thing. Like some 18-year-old white kid goes on talks about white genocide and goes out shooting black people. And then at the same time, the Republicans are saying, well, we shouldn't be teaching kids about racial issues in school.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, are you sure about that? Because
I like how they're all about like not government control until it comes to stuff that they don't agree with. Like, well, we're going to control what you could learn in school and this and that. We're going to control what a woman does with her body. And it's just like, come on. Just the hypocrisy is crazy.
I don't think we should continue to call them Republicans because they're not Republicans anymore. They're just straight up fascists.
Yeah. And I call the ones that are just strictly Trumpers, I just call them Trump publicans.
And then the evangelicals, I saw this term on Reddit that was great. Al-Qaeda.
Yeah. Al-Qaeda. Oh, yeah.
Al-Qaeda. Well, because they want to institute a Christian theocracy here.
Yeah.
And they're doing a damn good job of it. This has been in the works for decades. And that's not a good thing because for over 1,000 years the Middle East was the world's epicenter for scientific advancement and cultural enlightenment. And almost for like 2,000 years. And I mean, they invented the numbers that we use. They invented astronomy, all this.
Exactly.
And as soon as the religious religious extremists took control of the government, they've been in dark ages ever since.
Yeah.
And we're on that path, and we're moving there very fast.
Very fast. Yeah. I mean, we keep hearing the whispers of civil war, and it's starting to kind of separate the entire country. And because abortion, they say abortion is basically like what happened with the slavery. Is like there were states that were for slavery and states that are against it. And so I think this abortion is going to be like almost like the new slavery, the new reason for us to go to a civil war. And if it passes or whatever.
Yeah, and the precedent that was used to establish Roe v. Wade in the first place, with it overturned, that paves the way to. I mean, mark my words, they're coming after us alphabet folk next. And and I mean, they can go after interracial marriage. Like it opens up a whole Pandora's box. And so I'm actually going to be a gun owner for the first time in my life.
Cool. Yeah. I
I've
want to
never
be, but
been.
I just don't know how to go about it.
Well, I joined this subreddit called the Socialist Rifle Association,
Okay.
and I just posted up explaining my situation, and they gave me tons of resources and advice and everything like that. It was I highly recommend it. It's a pretty wholesome group for a gun group, you know. And
Yeah.
but the thing is, yeah, like I've never been anti-gun. I've always thought,
Yeah.
like
Same
I've
here.
always wanted. I've been shooting to a range once, and
Yeah.
I had fun with it. But I've never owned guns just because I've have a history of suicidal ideation,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And
I've always been for guns. I just feel like, when they talk about gun control and we need background checks, we do need those. I mean,
yeah,
it should be just as hard to get a gun as it is a driver's license. It shouldn't be harder to get a driver's
yeah,
license than it is just going to get a gun,
yeah. Mental
Especially when,
health exams.
yeah, just all it takes is one little mental health exam. If the person, yeah, maybe the person can be deceiving or whatever, but then you'll find out eventually at some
Mhm.
point. But everyone's got a history, medical history, So, and
Right,
there's so,
right.
yeah, I hate that we hear, like, especially with this kid now. Now we find out after these 10 people died that he was flagged a year ago. He had a threat. He made some threats and they let him go. And it's just like
Right.
over and over. It's the same freaking thing with these fucking mass shooters. It's just
Yeah.
like, when are they gonna
Yeah.
learn? Just fucking
Regulation. That's
start
the
taking
thing.
shit serious. Yeah, start taking this. When you give someone a mental evaluation and they say the words like, and one of the questions I have to ask on my assessment, are you feeling homicidal, or are you having any homicidal thoughts? They say yes, and I got to stop the assessment and start, break out another intervention. But
Right.
do these people do that? Do these actually psychologists and stuff, when they evaluate these people, psych evals, do they, what do they do? Just write the notes and just toss it in a file somewhere? Then 3 years later, this guy freaking that said 3 years ago that, yeah, I feel like harming people. Well,
Yeah.
maybe he wasn't serious. Maybe he was just,
Yeah.
maybe he's
Maybe
just
this
acting.
guy needs more
Yeah,
guns.
maybe he's just playing too many video games and he's trying to act like a movie, like he's in the movie.
Oh, that whole
Oh
fucking
yeah, they got to take this shit serious. I mean, put them. There's got to be some kind of database that people can go on, and then if we go to buy a gun, if that kid will go buy a gun, they can
yeah.
see that this guy's on a database. So there's a red flag there. So maybe we should take extra precautions, make him go through a little bit more
Right, right.
strenuous thing to get before he gets that gun. That's,
Well-reasoned regulation. I
yeah,
mean, it's not going to stop bad people from getting guns because you can
exactly.
still go to gun shows, or
Yeah,
hell, nowadays you can even 3D print your own
yeah,
parts.
hmm,
And
yeah,
so you're not going to stop it, but at least have some
exactly.
common sense about it.
Yeah, especially if a kid comes in with an army. If I'm in a gun shop and I'm selling guns, I got it. Whatever. What's the popular gun for mass shooters? Like is it the
AR-15.
AR-15? And I see some kid walk in with, he kind of looks disheveled and he's got an army jacket on. And he asks me, and he wants to buy an AR-15. Even though I have to follow the law and the rules and give him that gun, I'm still gonna have my reservations in my mind. So like, what's this guy gonna
Well,
do with this gun? Why does he need this gun? Even though he does have the right for it, but why does he need this gun at this moment, dressed like
sure.
that?
But
That would
then
be
but
my
then
judgmental.
yeah, well, yeah, then you're judging a book by its cover, like
Yeah.
by its
Uh-huh.
cover. You don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, like, I'm sure you've been misjudged plenty of
Oh yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Being a metalhead and
Hmm.
wearing all black and or
Yeah. Hmm.
makeup and
Oh
painting your
yeah.
nails and
Yep. Yep.
cutting yourself with a razor blade on stage.
Yep.
I don't know
Yep.
what kind of impression you were trying to give people, but it was the wrong impression.
Yeah, definitely the wrong impression.
Oh man, those old videos are so much fun.
Yeah.
Didn't you guys go on tour in Europe at one point?
So I think well, Tony did with
Oh,
Astro.
Astrovamps. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
Willow Wisp
yeah,
never did.
yeah. We
Uh,
never, yeah, we always wanted to. I just don't know why we never got. It was hard to tour the money, because either Tony was spending the band money or I was spending the band money.
mm, yeah,
And
yeah.
obviously, Tony's about spending the band money.
hmm
Look at his record
Uh,
collection.
yeah, you say spending the band money. I call it what it is:
Yeah,
extortion. I mean,
yeah,
embezzlement.
yeah.
Embezzlement.
Basically,
Yeah.
it is a business, but
Yeah.
and I think that's a lot of times, bands they make a mistake when they're just a local band, or they're a band that's like, trying to make it. They don't see themselves as a business. They see it as like,
Uh,
we're starving
yeah.
musicians, and we want to get that big break. It's like, no, but you're still
Yeah.
a business, especially
Right.
when you're bringing in new people all the time. Like, we went through a lot of different members and stuff, but
Oh yeah.
Willow Wisp, it was always me and Tony, and then I think my brother was our first kind of real serious musician that came after that. And after he left, we had Raven and Gabriel, but we had a bunch of people in between that would last maybe a month or 2 months with us or
Right.
whatever. Yeah. And I think we had Bullet was probably our first bass player that was serious, but he was a little bit challenged on some of the riffs and stuff like that. And but he had a cool image, he was a really cool guy. Him and Tony just didn't get along too. I think that's what kind of ended that.
That's understandable.
Yeah, he's the guy that like people would call me like, yeah, that Tony, this is like blah blah blah, like, oh, just give him a chance, you'll work it out, and this and that. But it's like I was always like that middle piece or whatever.
Right, the diplomat.
Yeah.
I mean, like it was, like despite his personality, I was able to look past that because he's just such a talented musician.
Yeah.
But there's at a certain point, like you gotta work on yourself a little bit, have some introspection, and
I think what it is, he's just really obsessed and driven to try to be like that, rock star.
He would always say like he does crazy shit because he wants to have interesting stories to tell when he writes his memoirs, and it's that's kind of a bass-ackwards way of going about things,
Yeah, you just gotta live life, and the memoirs are gonna write themselves,
Yeah. But yeah, like back to the business thing, it's cool. Like this is really the first band I've been in, Solar Animals.
Cool.
And like that's run legit like a business. This is like the 17th band I've been in, like we have spreadsheets and Google Docs, and like we have
original
two
music.
people, all original, and we know how to negotiate for guarantees, we know how to budget, and like we don't take a payday until after we have so much in the account, and so like everything's
that's how you do it. And bands like that are the ones that usually do end up kind of going further,
we're playing a hemp festival in a couple of weeks that I'm
cool.
excited about. It's like a couple hours out of town.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Were you playing
bass? Playing bass or guitar on
it? Neither. I'm playing synthesizers.
Cool.
We don't have a drummer, so I do like I make all the beats and the sequencing like EDM style, and then I play saxophone, and then I sing. And then we've got a rhythm guitarist, a lead guitarist, and then we've got a flautist, and who also plays like piccolo and harmonium. And then one of the guitar players also plays keyboards, and the other one plays some percussion. And
like a full ensemble.
And
cool.
but I ended up tracking the bass lines for the album just because we've been just going through bassists, and being able to find a steady. Steady.
It's always a bass we got to try to find.
And then I kind of fucked up because I set the bar pretty high now, recorded all those technical bass lines, and so now we got to find somebody who can pop and slap and tap and do all the.
Well, search YouTube, man. That's where they're all
at. Well, we need someone local, and I don't know if you're familiar with Wilmington, North Carolina. I mean, it's one of the bigger cities in the state.
I hear about it a lot. I've heard a lot about it.
Especially during BLM, because the only successful overthrow of the government happened here in 1895, I think.
Pretty sure I telemarketed there too, because we telemarket all over the United States. So I still know the area code. If I remember, I kind of remember parts of North Carolina area code. Maybe I don't remember it, but I know like Colorado's 303, Nevada 702, 313 is Michigan. Things like North Carolina.
That's funny. Like
714. That's California. 704.
910.
Oh, 910.
Well,
there's a bunch of new ones too.
There is a 710 around here. I don't know. I still have a 310 area code, from LA. That's funny. Like do you typically have a good memory? Like
sometimes I do. Like it's selective, I think. Like with numbers, I have a very photographic memory. Like when we were just talking about that.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, like when we were talking about those past incidents with Tony and stuff, I can actually visualize it in my head exactly where
Yeah.
it was at, where I was looking, and where I was at, and I could see it like a movie, as clear as a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
But
cool.
then,
Same here.
yeah, but then when it comes to like dates or like I could remember when we played with Dark Funeral that was like my last show, but I don't remember the exact date. I don't remember what year it was. Was it
Right.
2006? Was it 2007? Because that was pretty much my last show with them, and
Right.
yeah. So very selective memory, very bizarre. Like,
Yeah, but that's interesting because I have a very similar memory, and it kind of runs in my family. And
yeah,
I didn't realize until um, recent years
mhm,
that my little brother has it, and my dad has it too,
yeah,
where you
yeah,
can just like play back things like a movie. So like in school. Other students would always get pissed off at me because I'd never take notes, and sometimes that'd piss teachers off. And
yeah.
I'm like, well, taking notes actually messes up my ability to memorize what
Uh huh.
you're like. If I just hyper focus on the lecture, come
Yeah,
test day, I could just like play back, forward,
yeah.
rewind,
Uh
like
huh.
and
Yeah, yeah,
but like my little brother, like numbers aren't my thing, but my little brother can remember every single address he's ever lived at.
wow.
And he like we're family like descendant of gypsies, so we've all
Uh-huh.
moved around a lot. Like I've moved more than 30 times by the time I was 30, and
Yeah.
so I think he's moved like 35 times and remembers every single address going back to when he was in diapers.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how memory works and stuff. Yeah. Like, mm.
Yeah, but it's um
But
it's often attributed to like autistic people tend to
yeah.
have really clear memories, and that's one of my I I call it a autistic superpower, and I know other spectrum people hate
Yeah.
that Hollywood stereotype of like, oh,
Yeah.
you're autistic, you must have superpowers, but it's like,
Uh-huh.
well, sometimes, yeah, if I'm writing a comedy set, I mean, half the time I don't even need to write it down. I can remember, like 5 minutes of material
Yeah.
verbatim and just do
Yeah.
it every time without, or like with music, like once I play a song, like once or twice, it's just locked
Yeah.
in there.
It's already there.
Um, yeah. And so that helps speed things up.
That's why with like lyrics, I can like how I had trouble with the lyric earlier when I was talking about the Warmonger song. It's like if I'm singing or I'm on stage or if I'm in presence, because I always sang Tony's lyrics, and
Yeah.
and so I remember when I'm singing or whatever. But then I can get right off stage and someone will say, "Well, what was that you just sang?" I could be like, my mind would just go
Oh,
blank. I don't know what it was.
yeah.
I have no idea. I don't even know the title of the song I'm singing. It's like,
Yeah. So very selective.
yeah,
It's like,
very selective.
it's like being able to be in. Did you ever see that movie Mystery Men?
I think so. I can't remember
Yeah, it was
exactly
about
who's.
these ragtag superheroes. It was like William H. Macy, Janine Garofalo, what's his name? Harry Shearer from The Simpsons,
Mhm.
Pee Wee Herman, and yeah. But like one of the superheroes' special power was he could turn invisible, but
Yeah.
only if he's completely naked and there's nobody looking at him. So
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
it's like
I don't think I've
so
seen that.
conditional you'd never think to be
Uh,
able to use it, but they found a way to like
yeah,
make it useful because he could
yeah,
get through like the security system, so it's not people
yeah,
actually looking at him.
yeah. I remember
Uh,
when I was 4 years old. I remember I still have the vision in my mind of me swallowing a handful of pennies and my mom freaking out and trying to do the Heimlich thing on me, or whatever, which I don't think
oh
I even
shit.
needed. I just remember sitting on the floor, and I must have been four, maybe five. That's probably my earliest remembrance as a child. But not only can I remember it, I can actually see myself doing it. And I don't know
Yeah.
if that's just something that was just embedded in me or something. But yeah,
Oh, crazy. My earliest memory, I mean, I have some flashes of being in an incubator,
yeah,
because I was a preemie,
yeah,
and I just have some vague impressions. Like my grandma worked at she was Burt Reynolds' assistant and worked at his theater. And when I was born, she brought some of the cast from this musical that they were doing, and they came and like sang to me. So I have
yeah,
some impressions of that. But then like the one after that is like I was about 4 years old, and I had such a vivid dream that I still remember it like with crystal clarity. I'll be 41 next month,
yeah, yeah.
and I dreamt of my own death
Wow.
and afterlife, and it was weird because I was in South Florida, and in my dream I was an adult in like New York City, and on a subway, which I don't know how I'd ever even seen a subway,
Mm.
because they don't have them in Florida, and
Yeah.
we had like this was before cable existed.
Yeah.
Like I was allowed to watch cartoons, after school, and that was all the TV I watched. So it's
Yeah.
like where the fuck did I? Where I don't know. It's
Uh-huh.
weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of weird things throughout my life, that I don't know, like what are your views on like the supernatural or
Uh,
paranormal?
I've just always been like, I wish I could see it. I will never say I don't disbelieve it. And when people tell me, like, my girlfriend, she's had a lot of paranormal experiences, and she'll tell me the stories, and I get little chills and stuff like that. But I'm just saying, why can I see it? Like, is it just
All
select
right.
people get a chance to see it, or, and maybe I have, and maybe, I mean, there's been times where I stayed the night in my St. Helens, and St. Helens is a very creepy little town outside of
Mm,
Portland, and they filmed Twilight there. They film
mm.
Halloween Town, the movie Halloween Town. They take Halloween very serious. They decorate it up, and it looks like something out of a horror movie, like a Stephen King movie or something. But with my building, it's like I sometimes used to have to stay the night at the office because I couldn't catch the bus back. And so, but I would hear like just crazy sounds. I'm thinking this place has got to be haunted,
Wait,
because there's like
is that
people
is
walking around and stuff. Nope.
St. Helens? Is that it? Like, is that at the base of Mount St. Helens?
No, because I think that's what I always wondered too. But I think St. Helens is definitely separate. Because I think St. Helens, the mountain, is kind of more in Washington. I think, is it or no? I'm very
Oh, you might
geography,
be you
but I
might be
know it's.
right.
But I'm pretty sure it's going towards that way because it's more up north, and so I'm sure that because there's like there's St. Helens, there's Mount Rainier. So I think we have like three volcanoes, and so there's
Yeah,
usually towns like named after them or something. But
yeah.
yeah, it's just a
It's,
very creepy little place. It's one of those kind of little towns where everybody knows each other. I think they're like kind of Freemason. There's like I see little
ah,
Freemason symbols everywhere and shit. I haven't seen one which is trippy. There's this one building has a Freemason symbol inside a pentagram, which I thought
mm.
was really bizarre, and the door's always locked. I'm thinking, oh, they like some kind of secret Satanist or
Well,
secret society.
here's what I've learned about the Freemasons. My great grandpa was actually a Freemason, but
Yeah.
he never talked about it. But just through my independent research, um, they started around the time as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Like
Hmm.
where Aleister Crowley got his occult training,
I see. Huh.
and so the Freemasons still um, like adhere to some of the rituals of the Golden Dawn, the Rosicrucians too.
Yeah.
Like, so it's kind of an amalgam of all these um, esoteric religions and occult practices. So it's like, you get a little Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. You get some ancient Egyptian
Yeah.
mysticism in there. You've got some, you know, Celtic, like pagan
Yeah.
influence, some Christian influence, and it's kind of an amalgam of all of these
Oh yeah.
different metaphysical systems
Hmm.
into one. And yeah, I practiced that for a long
Yeah.
while,
Yeah.
when I was way into magic as a teenager and in my early
Yeah.
20s,
Yeah.
and then I went from that to like staunch, like Christopher Hitchens style atheist.
Oh yeah. 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 I always say I'm agnostic because it's like if
Yeah,
I'm atheist, I'm no different than a Christian telling me there is a God.
right,
If
right.
I'm atheist, then I'm going to tell you there isn't. Whereas I like to be in the middle because just in case shit hits the fan, I have some options or whatever.
Well, the thing is, like, I'm no longer an atheist. I'm still an anti-theist,
Yeah.
because I think religions do more harm than good. But there's just I've had so many experiences that I can't just wave away with a
Yeah.
scientific wand. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and they're like, experiences that I'm not the sole witness, that other
Yeah.
people were there for and saw as well. And Yeah. So, but I mean, when I see like those ghost hunter shows and stuff, it's like, oh, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, you're
Yeah.
not,
I mean, because I would think like to really believe that there's ghosts and spirits and things, then you'd have to really believe there's an afterlife and things like that too. So, but then there's also the theory it could be multiverse. There's the whole
right.
multiverse thing. Like maybe when we see an apparition of some sort, or we have some kind of deja vu that we're actually really crossing over into some kind of collision between multiverses for a brief moment,
Right.
and some people see it and some people don't. So if there is a scientific explanation, maybe that would be closer to it. But
Sure.
again, to me, I like the fact that I don't know everything because it just keeps the wonder and the element of surprise if something were to happen. Would I be
Yeah.
scared or what? be like, wow, what the hell is that?
Well,
You know.
that's a sign of intelligence. Like there's this story about Socrates, ancient
Yeah.
Greek philosopher, where somebody approached him in the streets, kind of like antagonizing him, like, "Oh, Socrates, you think you're so smart, don't you?" And
Yeah.
his response was, "Or you think you know everything?" And his response was like, "I know that I know nothing."
Yeah. Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, it's the
Yeah.
people that say they know everything that are
Yeah.
generally wrong. The Dunning
Yeah.
Kruger effect,
So I
and
do. Because if you know every single thing, then what's the point of existing after that?
yeah,
Like, there's nothing left
yeah,
to discover.
omnipotence has to be boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, so, what do you think of the UAP phenomenon and aliens and the Pentagon coming out and saying, okay, these are advanced craft flying
Yeah.
around in our
Yeah,
airspace right now?
that's gonna be pretty fascinating because and just looking at those videos, I mean, that just looks like something like, how do you explain that? I mean, you're seeing it right there, just the way they move, and um, some people are saying it could be an optical illusion because up so high. But then why are they seeing it all the time? Like, why isn't like other planes reporting it over the
Right.
years?
Well, and yeah, like I mean, these are the most intensely trained
Yeah, exactly.
pilots that there are next
What
to
trips me out is like the highest technology, like, especially today, and we still get these grainy freaking, like, they can't have a better camera on that plane. It's like, come on, man.
yeah.
We got HD on our fucking phone, but they can't put that on a freaking plane. Come on.
Right. What's your hypothesis as to what these craft are?
I like to joke and say, "Oh, it's aliens," and they come down, they peek at us, and they say, "Fuck that! I'm not going to take over that planet. We're not going to invade them." So they take off, but really, again, it's one of those things where I just don't know, and it's like, and I think it's just eventually it's going to come out, and it's going to, I like to think that one day, and I think I remember reading about Nosferatu, or not Nosferatu, but Nostradamus,
Nostradamus. Yeah.
predicting that one day, and there's a year that the alien was supposed to actually show himself for to actually present himself.
Hmm.
But Nostradamus, always his predictions were off, but they were sometimes accurate. They were just off in the year. Like, you
Right.
think he said the end of the world was supposed to be 3033 or something like that, and here we are,
Well,
2022.
he
But
also said in the year 2007 the dead would rise.
yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
um,
And maybe they
but
have in some other sense. Maybe maybe he was right on that. So
yeah.
there's a lot of,
Um,
if we take his predictions literally, then maybe we're missing what he was really saying. Maybe that's what's causing us to not really see what these things are. Is it an alien, or it could be something completely different? I think of COVID as being an alien. It's because it kept reproducing. I think these viruses that are attacking us are aliens, in the sense of, they're definitely living things that's on this planet, and they're pretty much wiped out almost a lot of us anyway. 7.5 billion people. What are we down to? 6 billion now after COVID. You know,
uh,
but
um, so what do you think of
I think,
people that claim to have encountered aliens or been abducted and
yeah,
things like
yeah.
that?
I tend to believe them, but at the same time, I tend to believe them like I would believe somebody who said they saw a ghost, or an apparition, or their house is haunted. In the sense that,
Right.
well, how come I can't see it? Why is it, like, even Tony had an experience where his mom used to tell me this story that would kind of freak me out, like how they were out driving, and his dad or whatever, and this ship just like hovered across, up above their car, and they got out. I forgot what the rest of the story was, but Tony was just a baby in the back seat or whatever.
Yeah.
But just the way Tony used to tell it to me, and the way his mom used to tell it to me, it kind of would always give me the chills. But, and I truly, because the way she told me made me truly believe that she really believed that, and that she really did experience that. And
Right.
so it's, like I said, I mean, I think it'd be crazy to think that we're the only things existing out here, and or
Right.
in this big old universe. Look at, they just discovered that we got to see the first images of the black hole that we've been,
Oh
so
yeah. At the
pretty
center of the
fast.
galaxy.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
so
James Webb Telescope. It's
yeah,
online. Like that's
yeah.
just the
So
beginning.
that's just the beginning. So it's probably gonna be very interesting to see what's gonna come out of that. I'm hoping I'm alive long enough to see something. Like, the
Well,
next 30 years or so.
the cool thing about it is that it's able to detect or analyze the atmospheric composition of distant planets,
Yeah,
and there's some hallmark elements and chemical compounds that don't occur in nature. So if we find some of those signatures, that's a strong indicator of technology.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
me personally, I'm pretty much all in on the alien hypothesis, just because I've had experiences my entire life throughout.
Hmm.
Just like I've been picked up by them regularly
Yeah,
and
yeah.
been told I'm part of their experimental programs, and
Hmm.
I've had witnesses. Like I met this this other trans woman in LA when I was still living there, and it was weird because like she said it before I did, but she was like, I just saw you a few weeks ago on the ship. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
like we
Wow.
saw each other like on a fucking ship. Like everybody,
Yeah.
like it was like a mass abduction thing where
Uh-huh.
everybody, see, now I'm getting goosebumps, and like everybody
Yeah.
was nude and just kind of paralyzed looking at each other like, oh, what's
Yeah.
gonna happen next? And we
Yeah.
were like standing across the room from each other, and waking up with like weird markings, like symmetrical, like machined looking marks, or
Yeah.
missing time, like fall asleep one spot and then wake up somewhere else with my
Yeah.
clothes all wrong, and
Uh-huh.
um, yeah,
Dang.
my ex-wife, she didn't believe me at first until like we shared a bed for like 8 years, and then she was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, there's definitely something
There's
going
definitely
on,
something
like,
going on.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so and the recent Pentagon papers that came out. Like I had a guest on the podcast about a month ago who said that she had a miscarriage, and then about a year later she went to the doctors because she put on a bunch of sudden weight gain. They
Hmm.
gave her a pregnancy test; it was negative, so doctor just thought she was fat and gave her some dieting pills,
Yeah.
sent her on her
Yeah.
way. And then right after that, and she's a lifelong experiencer too. She said the aliens came to her in her sleep and shone a light onto her womb, and it like filled up with a baby. Like she felt the
Yeah.
baby
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
appear in
Dang.
there. And she went right back to the doctor, and he's like, you're fucking crazy. And so
Uh-huh.
she
Yeah.
gets a second opinion, and they're like, wow, you're about 35 weeks pregnant. And
Oh,
she's,
wow.
yeah, she gave birth like 18 weeks later, or I mean 18 days later.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, she's telling me some of the stuff her daughter says. Like her daughter is 4 years old, sitting on the
Wow.
toilet, and then just goes like glassy eyed and starts speaking very monotone like this, and said, it is a shame that humans haven't treated this planet very well. They're going
Wow.
to have to find a new planet to live on. And she's like, what? What did you just say? And she's like, oh, I made a poopy. It's just like
Oh,
back in
damn.
kid mode. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay
Yeah.
then.
See. Yeah,
But
that's
then
stuff.
that same week I interviewed her, the Pentagon released a 1,500-page report
Yeah.
where they were talking about the abduction phenomenon and correlated it to unexpected pregnancies.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
it's like, yeah, the more that comes out, the more it seems like, okay, they're in the know. And like
Yeah.
Eisenhower's granddaughter, I just recently saw an interview with her, and she said he told her that yes, he did meet with the aliens,
Yeah.
um, and that he did sign that treaty, which
Huh.
has been going
Yeah.
around in the lore, for a long time,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
when he was in office, he went to California for some meeting, but then there was 5 days where he just disappeared and nobody knew where he was. His wife, his closest age,
Dang.
nobody.
Yeah.
And it was supposedly like there was some leaked document or something that said he went and met with the Greys and signed a treaty with them, exchanging some of their technology in exchange for allowing them to abduct military personnel and their families, right,
Wow.
for
Yeah.
experimentation. And I came from a military family background, and she
Hmm.
came from like the vast majority of abductees come from military families.
Yeah.
So it's to hear his granddaughter say that, I mean, yeah, it's anecdotal, secondhand, thirdhand
Yeah. Yeah.
information, but still,
That's
like
why
all
when I
these pieces fit together so
yeah.
neatly.
That's why when I put a ghost in aliens, I tend to believe more about the aliens existing and
Yeah.
stuff. I do the ghosts because I know the ghosts do exist, but there's got to be some kind of explanation. But the aliens, I believe, that they're here and that they're coming in different forms, and They're not like the little green men with the big eyes that we, well, they could be too, because there's obviously been a lot of sightings like that. So it's just,
Yeah.
I think an alien is obviously something that's different from us, that we don't understand, and so it's going to come in any form. God's an alien, maybe even. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like yeah, uh, there's there's some talk online about Jesus was an alien and like
Yeah.
all the there's that passage in the Bible. It was Ezekiel, I think.
Yeah.
And it's known as Ezekiel's Wheels, where he talks about being summoned into a clearing in the woods by some angelic voices.
Yeah.
And he gets there and he describes this kind of machine thing, like these wheels within wheels that are rotating around, and there's like a
Yeah.
light and a fire coming out of it, and like it sounds like a fucking UFO. And
Yeah.
but that HN Aliens show is garbage.
Yeah. 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 So this just seems like more for entertainment, but it's
Yeah.
definitely entertaining. Huh.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I should be wrapping it up here in a little bit because I
Yeah.
gotta do the old bump and grind with the boss man.
Yay.
Usually does a staff meetings on Friday, but we didn't get to do it on Friday, so let's do it on Mondays. Like, so we had to do that. Me and my supervisor and shit. But yeah.
Monday
So,
fun.
hey, I was gonna ask you. So obviously you're Steph now, as
Yeah.
a trans woman. So how does that work? Do you have to change your name legally and stuff? Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm at the early stages of the
Is it
process, and
a hard process, or is it like?
yeah, there's a lot of hoops to jump through,
Yeah.
and part of me is just kind of afraid that because
Do they ask you? Do they ask you questions? Oh, go ahead.
The clerk of court can just look at the application and say nope, and doesn't
Yeah.
have to give a
That's what I was
reason or
wondering.
anything.
Like, that's what I was wondering. Do they put you through more scrupulation than they would somebody like me if I wanted to have my name legally changed? Obviously that's a process too, but I
Right.
wonder if it's more process for you because of being a trans person.
Not on paper, like theoretically there shouldn't be,
Yeah.
but just because of bias and all of that, especially with today's climate of referring to all trans people as pedophiles, that's
Yeah.
going to turn out great, like
That baffles me because, like, how many pedophiles you see busted in the news that's a trans person? It's usually the guy next door with the freaking
yeah.
beer belly and the fucking short hair.
It's the
like,
Christian white
yeah.
straight guy, it's
Yeah, exactly.
like oh, they're like, don't look at our Catholic
Yeah.
priests over
When they say, like,
here. It's got to
don't
be
want 'em
those weird
like
looking
they're gonna
trannies with pink
yeah,
hair.
want them in the bathroom. Like, who's going into the bathroom to look for sex anyway? Like,
Yeah.
like whether you're trans or not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, gay men, that's
Yeah,
but
sometimes. Yeah, that's true.
but they go into the men's bathroom because
Yeah,
that's where they're gonna
exactly.
find a
Yeah,
hookup,
yeah. Like, why would
and
they want to? It's so bizarre.
but yeah, back in the days when they were doing all those bathroom bills, the Republicans, the conservatives were making these advertisements to, like the put the fear in people, and they'd get some like big burly like hairy guy,
Yeah,
and they do it in a grainy black and white with a narrator like, this is what will happen if we allow these people in. Would
yeah,
you let a man into your bathroom with your daughter? And you see this like creepy
yeah.
big hand, like
All right.
it's fucked up. Like I've been assaulted in a men's bathroom,
Wow.
like early in my transition, because like I was just too scared to,
Yeah,
I thought I'd get in trouble or something if I used the right
yeah.
bathroom. And I go in there and I get assaulted,
Yeah, that's why I said they make it so like it's like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, basically. Like, you know,
yeah. Um,
just doesn't
I
make sense.
I'd love to go on tour in the Southeast, but it's like I don't know which states I'm allowed to use the
Yeah,
bathroom or
you think
not.
you think they'll eventually just move into like producing transgender bathrooms separately,
Oh,
or would that
well,
be too? That's probably going to cost a lot of money if they were to just change every bathroom into that. I don't think they should have to though. Unfortunately, they would. That's something they would think about, but honestly, we don't believe that should even happen. It shouldn't even be
like
that way.
the thing is, like in LA, like most of the bathrooms are gender neutral. Like
Yeah,
you can,
unisex.
and here in Wilmington, like North Carolina was the first state to pass the bathroom bill,
Yeah.
HB1, which they repealed it, fortunately, like right before I moved here, because it wrecked the economy, like because Hollywood and the NBA, they like all pulled their stuff out of the state. And
Yeah.
So yeah, all of the vast majority of the bathrooms here don't have any gender signs on them at all. So
That's cool. Yeah, that's
um,
cool.
yeah, it's stupid, but like the whole demonization process,
Yeah.
like the projection of, like we know these conservatives have track records of sexual assaults and
Hmm.
misconduct, and Brett Kavanaugh
Yeah.
for instance, the gang raping people in
Mm.
college, and
Yep.
you know
Yep.
Trump,
Yeah.
how long is his thing, and then Matt
Uh-huh.
Gaetz and all these people. We just make a handy scapegoat because
Yeah, for sure.
we make up less than 1% of the population,
Yeah.
so
That's all it is.
uh,
Just a scapegoat.
there's
Yeah.
not enough of us to stand up and put up a big fight,
Yeah.
but they're really pulling plays from the Nazi playbook, like
Hmm.
step by step by step,
Yeah.
um, sometimes I'll say that to somebody, who's not even necessarily conservative, but I always get the same response, like, no, you're overreacting. Like,
Yeah.
it's not, this is America. We have rights and we have freedoms and the Constitution. It's not gonna, we're not,
Yeah.
don't compare it to Nazi Germany because it's not, you
Yeah.
know. I said that to my Jewish friend. Like, I was like, they're doing stuff that Nazis, and he's like, don't. He got really upset. It's not
Oh
the same
yeah.
thing, and it's like, I'm like, oh, I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm saying they're doing the same types of things. They're doing the same political maneuvering
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
same like propaganda techniques,
Pretty like
and
the same mind games, pretty much. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nazi Germany didn't happen overnight. It
No.
was a gradual. It was almost a 10-year
Yeah.
process
Yeah.
before the overthrow, and the installation of the fascist regime. But the thing
Mhm.
is, they won the hearts and minds of the people because Hitler was saying, like, we're gonna build back better. We're gonna make Germany great again
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
World War One.
Yep.
Like,
Yep. Yeah.
and so yeah, it's what is it, like Trump's ex-wife even said that he used to fall asleep with Mein Kampf on his
Yeah. Yeah.
nightstand, you
I
know,
totally believe that
and,
too.
and
Yep.
like Ron DeSantis, who we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
he's been praising, what's his name, the
Putin.
autocrat leader of, well, aside from Putin, of Hungary.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, they've recently switched into a fascist state.
Yeah.
They had started becoming more progressive and like part of the European Union, but then yeah,
Yeah.
they got, and so yeah, I've been hearing more and more conservatives or Republicans, fascists,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like,
using
like Russia saying they're doing what they're doing to Ukraine just to get rid of the Nazis. So you're gonna be a Nazi to
yeah,
get rid of Nazis,
right.
basically.
And while President Zelensky is a Jew
Yeah, he's a
whose
Jewish. Yeah.
parents survived the Holocaust,
Exactly.
and yeah, but he's a Nazi.
Yeah.
That tracks,
I think
but
I think they should get Putin out of there and just make Zelensky the president of the entire freaking country. It's Russia and Ukraine. That dude's
oh
a,
well,
that dude
yeah,
that dude's amazing.
yeah.
Little Ukraine, man, they're putting up the fight. They're holding their fucking. Putin didn't expect that shit, man.
Well, like they showed up with conscripts that didn't know they were going to war,
Yeah.
weaponry that hasn't been updated or maintained since the 70s, since
Yep.
Afghanistan,
Yep.
and of course Ukraine has fucking DARPA or Halliburton, like just shipping all their best toys out there,
Yeah.
like we're not going to put boots on the ground because we're not going to go to war,
Yeah.
but we're at war. We're at
Yep.
war with
Yeah.
Russia. Like Putin did that hypersonic missile test as a show that
Hmm.
we have at least as many nukes as you do, but we've got hypersonic missiles and you don't. So that means you're not going to shoot our missiles down. Like we could hit all our fucking targets before you can retaliate, and then
Yeah.
it's so they've tipped the scales on the mutually assured destruction that's been kept the Cold War in balance for as long as it did. Now it's like, ooh, and
Yeah.
then we're at war with China, but that's a economic war that
Yeah.
we're losing,
Yeah.
uh,
Pretty much.
very obviously.
Yep.
So
That's crazy.
and yeah, we're already at civil war here in this
Yeah.
country, like
Yeah.
100%. Like
Yeah. Oh
uh,
yeah.
all of the talk is just that. It's just
Hmm.
talk.
Yeah.
Um, all the conjecture, I mean, Trump's right on like fake news to an extent,
Yeah.
because there is plenty of that, and we have, thanks to that communications bill that Bill Clinton passed, right?
Yeah.
That allowed all you remember that in the 90s when like
Yeah.
all of the corporations started buying each other out,
Oh yeah,
until
yeah, yeah. I
like you
remember
get
something like that.
then you get MSNBC, it's
Yeah.
like Microsoft bought NBC, and then
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
like Comcast, AT&T just started buying up all of the
Yep.
small like communications companies, and
Time Warner and all
uh,
that shit. Yeah.
yeah, Kentucky Fried Chicken and Pizza Hut and Taco Bell, like all
Yeah.
and like just
Yeah.
everything just started becoming all these,
Uh-huh.
but they're like, well, we're not monopolies because there's more than one of us. It's like, okay, yeah, there's two of you, so
Yeah.
it's like that's not real competition,
Exactly.
and
Right.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
you got yeah, and so you've got the information that we're allowed to have is funneled through like a very small group of people, and then with net neutrality still on the books and still in action, right?
Yeah.
Like anybody that has a dissenting voice or try, like, well, we'll just throttle everybody's connection if they try to get to your
Yeah.
website, like Eric's freedom fighters,
Yeah.
like
Right.
like,
Yeah.
just like slow it down to where nobody can access it, and
Yeah.
we have the illusion of freedom is what it is.
Pretty much. Yeah.
The illusion of choice.
Hmm.
uh, and George Carlin said it best with
Very true. Very true.
there's a big club and you and I aren't in
Yep.
it.
Exactly. All right, my girl. You gotta.
On that note, because
Yes.
I
On that
I
note.
like to leave things positive and
Yes.
uplifting.
Yeah. Despite all the craziness and ugliness in the world, we got there's still a lot of beauty in it, and if we just
Absolutely.
we just got to focus on that.
Yeah,
And,
just be kind to each other,
yeah.
and
It's like a
love with all
plant.
you.
If you focus on the daisy and you grow that daisy into a beautiful, bunch of daisies, or you can focus on the weeds and just grow keep those weeds will get bigger, and you can focus on the positive and just keep growing it from there.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
you can focus on the negative and grow that from there. So we all.
Or you can do what I did and pick up a copy of the Ellipsis Manual,
Oh yeah.
which is it's the CIA training handbook for
Oh,
psychological analysis and manipulation.
cool.
So it's basically fight fire with fire,
Nice.
like how
You'll
do
have to
you
loan me a
deprogram?
copy. No.
Yeah,
Cool.
$12 on Amazon. It's
Yeah.
worth
All right. All right.
it.
Yeah, definitely.
But
I'll check that out.
yeah, well, this
Cool.
this has been a treat, man. I really appreciate you coming on, and
Yeah. Yeah.
had
This
a
is
good
fun. This is fun.
conversation.
We'll have to do it again sometime. Definitely.
Well, I got to come on your podcast next.
Yeah. Yeah. We're definitely gonna have you on. The Gen X Brothers. We should do a little
Anyway,
plug. Catch it anywhere that you get your podcast action on. And
yeah.
Spotify, iTunes, Outcast. I guess Outcast is the thing. I don't know. That's where we get most of our downloads. Yeah.
Yeah. Or YouTube, you can see
Yeah.
you eating Carolina Reaper
Yeah, the
peppers
Carolina
for
Reaper. I was
Ukraine.
gonna do the Death Nut thing, but the guy chickened out, man. So we never did the Death Nut thing. So no,
That,
he didn't check it out. What happened was and you're probably gonna run into this I don't know if you've run into this with guests or not, but you book a guest, right? And then
mhm.
so we book him on the very day that we're gonna tape. He informs us that he doesn't have a webcam or he can't get a webcam on the very day. So then my brother's
uh,
like, oh, so let's just do our thing that we normally do. And then he's
right.
messaging me while we're taping. He's like, hey, I think I got it to work. I was like, dude, it's too late, man.
Yeah.
You had like 2 weeks to figure out like whether your shit was together or not. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I had one guest just bail out, like just totally forgot that it was going to
yeah,
happen. And
yeah.
so like I had all my stuff set up and I'm like
Uh-huh.
waiting and I'm like
I know.
texting, like, you about
Yeah.
ready? And then like
How
it's an
rude.
hour past the time and it's yeah.
Very rude
um
people out there.
yeah. But awesome, dude. Well, it was great talking to you, and
You too.
I will talk to you later.
All right, girl. Bye bye.
All right. Bye.
Click this out.